Hello and welcome to the Captain's Table, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Paul Berserker01, Batman Shelley, your humble host and space bartender here at the AstroPub, your space bar at the end of Twitch. Sit back, relax, enjoy the show. We got a good one for you. Tree? The tree's moving. Okay, cool. I thought tree might be a frozen statue. I thought tree might be a tree for a moment. But yeah, welcome. This is the Captain's Table, where I bring people from all over the Star Citizen universe to talk about the game. I hadn't had anybody, and Execute popped on. My last stream was like, hey, come on and come to do an Info Runners channel. And I'm like, cool, Execute, you're going to come with me to do the Captain's Table. It's like, all right.
That's what we do, man.
So you'll see me later on the Info Runners later on this week as well. And but as a result, because Execute asked, and I was like, hey, cool, let's get Execute on, I figured we'd talk some ships, do some ship talking. Because we're all ship posters here in Star Citizen universe. But before we get to all that, let's start with Mr. Tree0311. Who are you? What do you do in Star Citizen, and where can they find you?
Hey everyone, I'm Tree0311. You've probably seen my face before. I host a couple Star Citizen podcasts over on Twitch, TV, whatever, at or Tree03. Yeah, that one, Tree0311. Can't miss it. 0311. I do the Pathfinders podcast with Nazarus, where we do deep dives into the development of the game, as well as follow the roadmap roundups and the monthly reports. And then I also do generally once a month we do an episode for Armchair Admirals and Generals, where myself and several other members of the military, we look at various aspects of Star Citizen from a more military perspective, regardless of whether it's a combat-oriented thing or not, logistics, all that. And we recently expanded our cast, and so I'll be making an announcement on Twitter, but I brought in Sergeant Tickles, and oh gosh, what's his new name? Drinkers with Gaming Problems, or
Badgers.
Brought him in.
Badgers?
Yeah.
You bastard!
Yeah. We're just borrowing.
To be fair, Execute was the one who's like, hey, get Badgers onto this podcast. He'd be perfect for this podcast. You should go.
He came in and hung out on our last podcast, and we had a bunch of fun talking with him. I was like, dude, you want to come on? He's like, oh, hell yeah. So we're still figuring out our next episode and figuring out who's going to be available. And then if you've heard of the Beyond the Verse podcast, they just got started. His name's Solus. Brought him in. Kale Katarn, who's a member of the community. He hangs out.
I'll have to hook you up with the Infrunners military group then, because there's a shit ton of boys in there that all know that stuff. So I can think of it. Well, you want to get Essay on there as well? I can tell you that right now. So yeah, a whole bunch of people. The
big thing is being able to, hey, here's the topic. Who wants to talk about it? And that way, if it's something that a Kel or Nightcob are like, it's not really my bag. Somebody else can sign up, or if somebody's not available. So.
Paul, he's figured out our secret. Other people do the show for you. He must be destroyed.
We can't let him out of here. This is lost media.
Yeah, but I do everything for charity. So all of my monetization goes to stackup.org. I take no money from it. So all my subs, all the ad revenue, direct donations, we're nearing $1,000 for the year already. So that was the original goal, and we're going to smash it.
Nice.
And so pretty stoked.
We're looking to do some merch, and you know how we don't do giveaways and stuff, but we're looking into doing that. But the giveaways and stuff, a lot of it's going to be for charity and stuff. Not all of it, but a lot of it. So, because obviously you've got to have money to make the stuff. But yeah, so we're looking into similar things like that, because SA is really big into that too. So if you're into charity stuff, definitely recommend you reach out to SA at some point.
Oh hell yeah, I'd be all about it.
And it's Tree0311 everywhere, like Twitch, YouTube, all that kind of stuff.
And Twitter is Tree0311-SC. Amazingly, there's already one of me on Twitter, but
somehow
random. Yeah.
It's like he's a military guy and he likes acronyms. Yeah.
And my second short form video is in production right now. So yeah, I'll be recording audio tomorrow.
Short form.
The last one was only 16 minutes. This one will probably be like 14. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the podcasts are long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Then we've got the man, the myth, the legend.
Really?
Yeah, he's a legend. You're a legend. You're a legend in some ways you don't want to be a legend, but a legend is still a legend.
You guys are the first content creators that I started following in Star Citizen.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah, I guess if you hang around long enough, people start listening to your bullshit. Yeah.
Mr. Execute, who are you? What do you do in Star Citizen, and where can they find you?
I'm one of the infronters with Paul, Argrid, Badges, Space Tomato, Loken. God, I know I'm missing a few people there, but yeah, there's a whole bunch of us. I guess I am the reluctant leader of this merry band, but yeah, we talk about a lot of ship stuff. Obviously, that's why I'm here today. We do a lot of deep dives, speculation, guides on how to get ships for cheaper, things like that. Anything I'm missing. Paul does marketing, so I just stand here awkwardly and
let me to do it.
Yeah, it's so much easier. Because I've learned, that's one of the things you learn in the infronters is just to rely on other people's strengths. You do your strength, and they will do their strength, and we all just carry each other. That's how it works. Like Paul needs a host or a guest, I turn up. That's how it works. We all help each other out. That's so lighten the load. So yeah.
I will do the little bit of the pitch for info runners. I want to say pimp your ship, that it's not the right one. Fix my fleet. Fix my fleet.
Yep.
Is a big one to do. We talk about everything. We talk about mostly we focus on ships. We talked about probably one of our more famous videos that two of our most famous performance videos, one of which is no one knows us for anymore, even though it got huge in the community. One is Sell Your Fighters, about us talking about that. And the other one is Star Citizen's way bigger than you think. And if you watch those two videos, they're pretty good ones.
So I actually took AI and I did a topic for AI at the end of December last year with Badges and Space Tomato, and that's become one of our biggest videos too.
AI?
Yeah. I just took a title from one of the, like ChatGPT.
Yeah.
And it just took off. So yeah. You're looking for me and Badges have been doing that a lot, like going to the AI and asking it for suggestions and stuff. So Tree, if you want any,
there we go.
Go get some topics from the AI. Yeah.
Hey, that's what those things are great for. Those are great tools for those sorts of ways that you can get around some of the issues. So,
look, until it can tell me where my
machine spirit,
until it can tell me where my pants are, it doesn't count. So,
all right,
you're wearing pants.
Yeah, I can't find my pants. Where are they? Google them. Here are your pants.
And of course, you talked about the Thursday stream, right? Or Thursdays.
Yeah, so we do stream on YouTube and Twitch now every Thursday. I don't know what time that is for you guys, because for me it's 5:30 in the morning Friday. Yeah, joy. No, it's not joy. I think it works out to be about 4 p.m. your time, Paul, roughly. I'd have to backtrack the math. But and we do that for about 4 hours, and it's a really weird stream because you go onto Twitch and you're looking and he's playing the game, she's playing the game, he's playing the game, and then you've got these two talking heads that are me and Agrid just answering questions for 4 hours. It's really weird.
And it can be exhausting. You'd be surprised how answering questions for 4 hours can be exhausting.
I've got to sit under these lights too. So look, I've got these glasses now. Look, hang on, I'll put these on there. Super nerdy. But I found they actually work with the lights.
Is it blue light blockers? Yeah, they're great.
Angry PC Tech got me onto this pair, so yeah, they actually work really well.
I'm going to be getting, when I get my next prescription over the summer, I'm going to get a pair for work, a pair for home, and a blue light blockers for streaming and gaming.
Wait, you can get blue light blockers from the
prescriptions? Yeah,
you can get. I'm gonna have to get. I just got new glasses last week. I'm gonna have to get more now.
Yeah,
that's how you know you're getting old, when you've got to get 2 sets of glasses, not one, two.
Well,
they're my first glasses, so.
Yeah, okay. You see, I only have one pair of glasses. I've had these since I was in college, and I am 36. So I need to get new pairs of glasses. That's just, yeah.
Well, that's the Australian health system at work. I got these for free.
Yeah, so.
Every 5 years, you can get a pair for free.
Nice. But let's talk about the topic for today. We're going to go down chronologically, but because all these folks are here, we'll talk about the best the best poll, the thing that the reason why you click this video, because I know you click this video or you click this live stream because of the title, and it is because of ships. You all love ships. It's okay to admit your kink. We all have our own styles, but we're going to talk about all of the ships that are likely to come out this year. We're going to go in chronological order, and we're going to talk about some of the more controversial possibilities, and as well maybe some of the unannounced ships that are coming out. Starting with you, X, what are the ships that you think will be coming out in 319? And which of those ships do you think is going to be the best to pick up for 319?
You've just made this easy. They're all listed. They came out this morning. They're all
That's
there.
true.
Why do I have to? Mate, trying to make me look stupid, Paul. I have to read off some script.
It's a test,
as you know,
and he's a teacher.
Well, a lot of people don't know that the leaks happened recently because 319 just went into Evocati. So,
yeah, but a lot of people besides you, Paul, know that my mum was also a teacher, so I know you're full of shit. Anyway, I don't know. Okay, we knew about the Fury, obviously. I think the interesting part there is the mirror reference. Do you think that's anything to the Ag was talking about the other day? There was it came up in the live stream. Someone talked about a misc Ferrimer or something like that. I can't remember the name. I'd have to go back and look at the exact name. But the fact that name Mir sounds very similar to it. I wonder if it's relatable. We also know got the cargo refactor. So yeah, the Fury is rumored to be a fighter though. So I would go down that line of thought. But what if it is how do I put this? What if it's a ship that has it could be the first, right? But what if it is a ship that has a combat or cargo variant?
Oh, so like a both.
Well, in the description, I remember the description because it was very visual. It says, it was from a lore post. So, Paul, you might know what this is. It was from 2012. It was one of the very first lore posts they ever posted. And this ship was called the Misc Femur or some shit. And it talks about how the person climbs into this rickety old ladder and he passes the external cargo hanging on the bottom and then climbs into the ship. So it makes it sound like a single-seater cargo ship.
I'd have to take a look at that old ones, but that could definitely happen. A MISC starter ship is well, we already have a MISC starter ship. It's called the Reliant, chat. But yeah, but that could be like a competitor to the. Well, they already make the whole series. So
my thought. Well, that's what we went through. Well, it sounds like this is just a ship that was there from back in the day and that's been superseded because the whole series is a thing, as you said, the core's a thing. But back in 2012, none of those things were a thing.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if the Mir is maybe just a tip of the hat to the old name, possibly.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Tumble Storm. Tree, what do you think that is? If you had to, I'm thinking some kind of EMP thing, Tree, unless you're thinking anything different.
Ooh. I didn't think about the EMP thing. That does kind of make sense with Storm.
Lightning.
I would and I was leaning just Storm as in it being
Storm
fast.
And
I'm of
we have a racing variant already, don't we, for the Cyclone?
Yeah.
I've really been hoping for more tracked vehicles. I enjoy driving the Nova. I think it's fun. I know it's not like the most realistic thing ever, but I find it satisfying. And so I've been hoping for a tracked infantry fighting vehicle type thing, something with a size 3, main gun, and a coaxial gun, room for, bigger than a Ursa, but tracked. And so I and obviously would be a lot faster than a Tumble Nova, more maneuverable. And so that was my hope, is for something, along those lines, because the Ursa rover it's an exploration rover. And yeah, there's, I imagine the UE Marine variant is a military recon rover thing, but still not a frontline combatant. Mm-hmm. And so, but yeah, I think there's definitely something to be said about some sort of, E-War or something like that, or an EMP type thing. I don't know. I hadn't thought about it that way, but the name does kind of lend to that.
I think it's more.
That kind of came out of the blue for me, though. That's for sure.
Yeah. It kind of, for me, it always seemed more. That seems a lot more more metaphorical, like storm, like storming the beaches, like going fast, but like a fast light combat vehicle. Whereas the Cyclone is literally a scout vehicle. This would be your IFV or your BMP, that kind of thing. That would be my thoughts on it too.
And
that.
Invictus launch week, it's definitely going to be something very combat related. Yeah. Hopefully they have good lore for it.
You keep making me think of a half track, the way you kind of described that a lot, and I'm like, like a good.
Oh, the good old M3, that's a classic.
That would be an interesting addition. I think a half track would be an interesting choice for CIG rather than a full tracked vehicle. Only because even though no one uses half tracks anymore, it would be a nice visually distinctive thing, especially since if it's considered an older tumbrel vehicle like the Nova is. So it'd be interesting.
That's a good question though. Is it a new thing or is it an old thing? Returneth. Yeah. Because I mean, that would if you went the half track route, that could be a way. Because that's the same sort of thing.
So do you guys think it'll be like? I'm just assuming because you've got the Tumbrel Nova, the Tumbrel Cyclone, which is a large and a small. Do we just make the potential assumption that this is a medium? So it's our first Ursa direct competitor size-wise, at least. I guess the G12 is technically that too. Now I think about it. No, wait.
I would think it would have to be bigger than the Ursa if it was going to be
probably in the same size range though. It's going to be smaller than the Nova and that kind of
stuff. Not dwarf the Ursa, but be bigger than I think it might be a stretch to fit in a Connie.
So basically there's three sizes: small, medium, and large. At the moment we've only got the Atlas platform and the Nova that fall into the large. The Ursa I'd have to double check. The Ursa is the only medium as I'm aware, but I could be wrong on the
G12 kind of falls in the same. I think the same size.
I thought the G12 was the same size as the Cyclone, but I could be wrong. Either way,
it's bigger the point is the Cyclone, but not by much. But it could be.
So I'm not quite sure on the metrics. I need to go check the vehicle metrics. But my point being is, if there is no medium from Nova, it's an obvious choice to make it a medium.
Or what if it's artillery? Storm? Rain?
Don't get my hopes up. Don't do that to me. Don't do that to me. I want artillery in this game. I want to be able to bring the rain.
Girl, you and me both.
I want to shout, "Shatter their skies!" as I'm firing my.
I do want to throw this out there though about the Fury. So Mir, they looked it up. The meaning
Japanese word.
Japanese, and it means to take care of, often medically.
Oh, it could be a medical version. Yeah.
Oh.
But a medical ship,
the size of a small fighter, we don't really have anything like that outside of the.
What if it's a single seat recovery vehicle? So it just recovers one person from a combat zone to take care of, as in,
So instead of a cargo bay, it has a medical bay you climb into.
Even it's just got like a bomb bay, but the bomb bay is converted just to hold one of those, those drones.
Yeah.
So it just flies over the drone, goes down, picks it up.
The Shepherd.
Yeah. Something like that. So it's just quick and nasty, but it recovers you though. I don't know.
I mean, that sounds like what they were going to do with the Gladiator. The Gladiator was supposed to have.
With the SAR module.
With the SAR module and the firefighting module and all that sort of stuff. So.
All right. And the last one on the list is an Aegis something. But I think from process of elimination, as Paul and I have been here, and Trey, you're probably in the same ballpark now. I shouldn't rule you out. You've been here for quite a while now. Fury seems to be a fighter, so we can assume that's kind of there. Smaller. And then you got the vehicle. Yeah, so I'm thinking the Aegis one has to be a little bit bigger at least. So
a medium or a large at minimum. They usually don't do capital ships, but a medium or a large would make sense. Because I believe the Legionnaire, wasn't that released last Invictus?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a medium ship. That's a size, but the same size as a Freelancer. I mean, it's like taller.
That's correct.
It's at the extreme edge of extra small for the hangar metric.
So actually, it is. You are correct. It is actually the biggest now. It has now overtaken the Freelancer. It is the biggest small ship.
Yeah.
Or T2 or S2. as I like to say now, because I'm sick of the confusion of the pad size. So I've gone to the numbers that they use.
Yeah.
But yeah, S2. There's no question when you use the right terminology, and I'm just finding that's what they're using, so that's what I'm going to start using.
They could also double dip, because this could also be a Squadron 42 thing, and a lot of people have been asking for this, which is some sort of logistics vehicle for the ground vehicles, because they also have the whole like pulling stuff off of vehicles and like salvaging, like, replacing weapons. It could be a vehicle that's designed to be, refueler, like put weapons stuff on a weapons rack and drive it around. Just something like
maybe they're being asses and doing what they did with the mining vehicle, and it's just a smaller salvage vehicle.
Yeah, that could be it. It's the it's a small salvage vehicle.
I know if we don't let Paul talk about this, he won't. So Paul, tell us about the bear claw. Sorry, I'm stumbling in my speech. Sorry.
The
bear claw. Because could it be a heavy fighter? Could it be a heavy fighter?
It could be the what is it called? It's not the bear claw.
The bear cat.
The bear cat. Yeah,
bear cat?
It could be the bear
cat. My bad.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Bear claws are delicious.
Yeah, it could be the bear cat. There's also another Aegis vehicle, which was the one that replaced that beat the Cutlass in the competition that the Cutlass was first introduced in. Let me look that up real quickly, and I'll tell you what it is. But that one I've always thought, like, hey, a Aegis version of the Cutlass would be fucking amazing. There we go. Let me pull up my.
Do you think there is another? I guess there is more room for a ship of that size, in that, because we've got that many in the constellation size, and generally you get more ships as you go down. So,
see if I can find.
There's definitely room then.
The lore for it. I'm not seeing any of. Why don't you? Oh, there we go. History of the. There we go. There we go.
So
okay.
Let me throw this to you, Paul. Then, if we know about the Cutlass, the Spirit, and the Freelancer, and what they bring, what would Aegis bring to the table in your like to a generalized ship in that arena?
Bombs away, baby.
Ooh, yeah, bombs.
And the thing that it lost to was the Aegis Wildcat, and the Wildcat. There was also the Bearcat, which is a vehicle that was designed to compete against the what was it? The Hawk, and it lost, but it was also supposed to have the same features as the Hawk. So either one of those would work. Something that's like a freelance or like a Cutlass, but made by Aegis, and then or something that is effectively a new bounty vehicle, because both of those are things that would fit in the needs. We only have 3 bounty ships, and we have bounty hunting coming up soon. So having an Aegis vehicle that does bounty, other than like a dedicated bounty hunter ship, it would be an interesting one. So I don't know.
Finding some other stuff here on the Miss Fury. It is a single 0G enter and exit animation, which kind of relatively confirms it's a single seater.
The Fury.
Yeah. There's also talk here of an alien ship called the Sulian. And when translated, the Raelian is carry without issue. The Sulian is fly without issue.
Yeah. The Celian, I think is what it's supposed to be. Sulian. Yeah.
I think I can't say that. That one. I think that probably accidentally ended up in that 319 build, but meant for Alien Week.
Yeah.
But if for me the fly without difficulty totally speaks to more VTOLs and being able to fly in atmosphere and gravity really well. And they're working on the tech with the Santok to allow for dynamic movement of the main thrusters, the big ones. And they're going to port that over from that Santok to things like the Legionnaire, the Valkyrie. But I could see them doing another ship. It's Gatak, not Apoa, right?
That's the Santok, yeah. And Gatak is not a combat vehicle, so...
Well, the thing is, they're suggesting it's the Gatak Sulian.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if it's Gatak, it could be a cargo ship, but more raft that's meant to go VTOL down to the planet, and drop off cargo.
I could be completely wrong here, but when it says fly without issue, I thought of racing. That's where
too.
my brain
Oh,
Yeah.
ooh, that's a good one too. Yep.
But if it
That
was
makes
a
a lot of
racing, it would be
sense.
an AOPOA ship. That would definitely be an AOPOA.
Yeah.
Isn't a power combat and Gataka
Light
like
ships.
industry
All-
cargo?
They do combat, but it's all light ships from the Xi'an Empire made by AOPOA. So anything that's a
Mhm.
light vehicle.
So what's Gatak specifically then?
Industry and industry specifically. So cargo, mining, refining, all of that stuff would be Gatak, and they've had a lifetime contract on that. Like that cannot be taken away from them. So,
well, and with more work on the cargo refactor and more, vehicle tractor beams, it's like, ooh, I could totally see.
So I throw this back at you then, though. This is just like adding to the speculation pool. If we've already got the Raelian from them, is this a smaller or larger ship?
Obviously, a bigger ship.
It's got to
you think so?
I think it. Well, the Raelian's pretty big, right? It's a large ship. It's like the size of like a whole sea or like a.
It's essentially a Connie type of thing.
Yeah. So I'd say more like a.
It has a big
ship.
footprint for the amount of cargo that it carries. But
if
that one, I was thinking like something. If that's the large, I was thinking something more medium.
Yeah,
but
I could see it being a raft competitor for sure, because it's the one thing that the Xi'an actually do not excel at compared to humanity is making their ships aerodynamic, because they're so reliant on their anti-grav tech that they just let that happen. But as a result, human ships have an advantage in atmosphere, because if they get into an atmosphere, their ships are designed to coast and fly and not use as much fuel, so humans can literally outrun out marathon a Xi'an fighter in those sorts of situations. So they have to use more power, which means they're more vulnerable, especially places that mess up their power systems and such. So the Xi'an building a ship that's designed specifically not to deal with atmosphere makes sense. So
with straight up Xi'an tractor beams, not Xi'an influence, straight up Xi'an ones.
Tractor beams.
Yeah.
I'm having a laugh here because Hader's made the comment, the hardest of them all. And then he's gone, tutorial, your first steps. And then it says,
get out of bed. Exit bed. Yeah. I have to agree with most of Hader's kind of suppositions from what he's pulling out there. It seems about right. What's the last one there, X? Because there's one more that we haven't talked about that's coming out in 3.19.
No, that was all four.
The link.
Tell me the one I've missed.
There's the Misk Reliant. Or not Reliant, the Misk Fury. What's the name of the potential variant? Did we talk about that?
Yeah, we did talk about that.
We talked about that.
Oh, did we?
I'm talking about the links. The RSI links.
Oh, the links. Oh, no one gives a shit about that. comes free with every old man Hurston. Do you know how bad he was? Sorry, I'm going to give him shit because, I have to give him shit. That's my job. But basically, he's like, oh, yeah, I'm going to buy 4 Lynxes. This is Algrid, by the way, if you don't know what I'm talking about. It's like, yeah, I'm going to buy 4 Lynxes. And I go, hang on a minute. They come with every Phoenix, don't they? And he goes, yeah, they do. And I go, how many Phoenixes do you have? He goes, 3. So he's going to buy 4 more and have 7. What the is wrong with him? What is he going to do with
He's
7
just Jay
Lynxes?
Leno, okay? He's just Jay Leno in Star Citizen. He just wants to buy 500 of everyone. By the way, that's going to get clipped. If you're watching this right now, Uri, I know you are. Clip that, all right? I need that as a short. I will use that as a short. What about the links? Oh, no one gives about the links. All right. Well, let's move on to. I'll talk about we'll ask you this question. Execute. Which one of those ships do you think is the best ship to come out for that in this run for 3.19? The thing that you'll see people using more or more fascinated by, based on
in the game right now. It's always combat, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to be honest. The one that interests me the most is the one that's the most mysterious, which is the God, I can't even say it now. Sulan. I think that is it because there's. But I think I kind of tend to agree with Tree here. Being attack, it does heavily lean towards cargo refactor, and I do get those raft vibes. It's like, oh well, we made the raft, but we dropped the ball on a cargo refactor, so now we'll sell another one. Like it feels a little bit like that. So I can see where Tree's coming from, but yeah, I don't know. Alien just appeals to me. I don't know. There's a lot of people out there that likes the alien stuff, but I think the Storm's going to go. I think they're all going to go well. Let's be honest. They're combat ships like that. That's why Invictus goes so well, because it's all Pew, 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 pew.
All I'm going to say is if they actually make a self-propelled gun out of the Storm, I'm going to lose my shit. I will lose my shit if CIG put artillery in this game.
I want to, if it's artillery
under the radar.
If it's artillery and you can fire people, like you know the launcher for the Caterpillar.
Yeah.
No, you put someone in and it launches them into the facility, like it's like a drop pod thing.
Yes, man cannon.
Surprise, motherfucker! Yeah.
All right, Tree. Based off of what we've talked about here, which of those are you most like interested in, or what do you think will be the most interested in the release for 319?
If the MISC Fury is a straight to flyable combat ship, as part of Invictus launch week, based off of and I'm just going to say based off of the leaks, big quote unquote, and the potential size, I just with lots of small ships, I think if it has two variants, the variant probably will be what makes it interesting versus another combat ship. Okay, a combat ship, but then there's two of them and one has does something different than the other. I think the Aegis ship is probably going to be a bomber or something to do with bombs, because in the 319 leaks they did have mention of size 5 bombs. I know they haven't worked on them in a few months. That last sprint ended at the beginning of this year. But with the work on the Spirit, it's the A1, right? The A1 Spirit.
Yeah.
I think that with that and the work on bombs, I think we're due for another bomber.
It lines up with the the drop bay doors for bombs. That would line up with the theory of what I was saying about the medical thing. Like, so it does make a lot of sense what you're saying, to my head anyway. My head's weird. You don't want to be in there, but you get what I mean. I did find 2 more lines that you might find of interest here, though. Most likely the ship is a single-seater ship with no interior beyond the pilot's chair. The ship is similar to the Avenger and Mustang with a cockpit accessible entrance. So it shares similar animations to the Avenger and the Mustang. So that kind of literally tells you what you're looking for.
Are you talking about the Fury?
Yeah. So it's a similar size ship to a Mustang and Adventure. So it's quite small. Can I be honest? Where my brain's going, and you totally correct me if I'm wrong. Like, and I'm talking size wise here, but I'm thinking like an Arrow bomber is where my brain is going.
For the Fury.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Small, quick,
a dive bomber,
strike craft dive bomber. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
So it just
I hope either the Fury or the Aegis is a dive bomber or a light bomber. I mean, obviously, preferably the one that's straight to flyable, but we'll see what we get. But I'm going to hold out hope that the Storm is either more likely an infantry fighting vehicle, but which I would be all about.
That's great.
I love my type of thing.
Yeah.
But if not, please artillery, and they've just been doing that under the hood. Because artillery, it would be one of those things that they could stick under an unannounced, because it's never been announced. It's just been a thing. Oh, we'd like to have it in game.
Yeah.
And so they could totally, get the first version of artillery, out there in a very limited sense, and just, either way, I think it'll probably be fun, and as long as it's not a Cyclone clone, or Cyclone clone, then I'll be happy.
As long as it's not the Cyclone I win button where they just take something and just make a better Cyclone like they did with the TR.
Yeah, it's we know that the DS didn't go over well, so let's name it something different, but give it extra seats and 6 wheels.
The Cyclone party bus where it's just like seven people in the back.
Okay, here's what it is. It's a Cyclone, but it's got 6 wheels and it's got more seats in the back, and it's to couple with the technology so that you can shoot your weapon out the side, and it's purely for drive-bys. Everybody just leans out and it does that.
Yes.
The one thing I just want to say too with the Aegis one, that is also pretty mysterious too, because I've just realized besides the MER, there's nothing that's really military adjacent.
No.
So you know how you get like a military explorer with the Carrack. So I would almost speculate that is the adjacent one. But again, again, how is because the alien one is obviously an alien week, so it doesn't need to have the military adjacency. So I'm wondering if that's what it is. The Aegis one is military adjacent, which they've done before.
Quick clarifying question for you guys to make sure I'm reading the leaks right and I'm on the same page as you guys. The Fury and the Storm were both expecting to be straight to flyable, or was it just the Fury? Okay.
They're both,
and then an Aegis concept.
There's animations linked to those two, which tells that it's in building of some kind.
I've got something that I need to share with you two boys. Get excited, but I'm going to share it with you. There is a line that says, "Name bomb. Storm burst equals stern burst bomb."
So
it's got bombs on it. The Storm's got bombs on it.
Why would the Storm have bombs? It's not. It's a.
Because it's a cut. What if it? What I think it might be. No, but like think about it. What is a bomb? Artillery.
Yeah, okay, I guess they could be using a bomb code for
like a cluster,
because it would make the sense.
Yeah, like
it makes sense.
Yeah, you launch it up and then it just falls down, because that's essentially what artillery is. But if you think about it, it's storm burst. So what if it flies over, detonates, and then it rains like it's like a cluster bomb,
like an actual cluster? That's kind of how actual artillery is supposed to work. It doesn't explode when it hits the ground. It explodes airbursts when it hits it's above it, sort of thing. So,
Robert Vose is saying in chat the Storm is listed as Hollow Viewer. There are so many leaks, I got confused really fast trying to keep up with it.
Okay. So we know for sure that the Fury's coming in, and the Storm's listed as a hollow viewer. What was the other one then? It was the alien ships. We may actually only have one straight to flyable for this one, which is
and I really think that the Gatak, whatever it is going to be, because June is Alien Week, right?
Yeah, it's first week of June.
Yeah, there was apparently 3 unannounced ships that were up for completion, so we could also have the Solian, but
there were 2 that were 100%.
Was it 2?
There were 2 of them that were in beyond their grain box level. They were in the lot. They just passed lot 0 and we're going into final art around the same time as the SRV. That was last month. So
so many now I'm losing track.
That would make sense. It would be the Fury and the Xi'an ship. I'm gonna call it the Xi'an ship.
Sulian.
Sulian.
Yeah. Just remember rail.
You keep repeating it. I'm still gonna get it wrong.
Yeah.
Sulian. All right, so like my name is Julian.
Yes.
Sulian. Just put an S on it instead of a J, and you've got it. Sulian.
All right, so let's go on to the next part. We're going to go beyond. Yes, beyond 319 for the rest of the year. What are some of the ships you expect to see by the end of the year? I'll start with you on this one, Tree, and then I'll ask Execute.
Oh, for the rest of the year, I'm thumbing through the progress tracker. Obviously, the Crusader Spirit series.
Yeah.
Hopefully before IAE, we'll just have to keep track on the progress. I think it could be a 320 ship. I'm hoping that it's sooner rather than later, and that they release all 3 at the same time. Versus kind of how remember when they did the Herc and you got the C2 and the M2 first, and then like a quarter or 2 later we got the A2. I'm hoping that they don't have to stagger them out like that. The thing that's been interesting for me is that obviously the Mist Hull C is in production, and that's more of a larger cargo factor, cargo missions when question than it is how long can we stretch out polishing the Hull C. But there's the vehicle teams are working on a lot of support tasks, so there isn't as much in the way of of known ship work going on, besides like the Santok Yai, which will probably be, to me, I see the Santok Yai with how complicated it is, would be an IAE thing. And then I know it's going to disappoint a lot of people, but the Origin X1 is going to be an IAE ship for sure.
Unacceptable. Unacceptable.
Hey, no one cares.
I care. I care.
Move on.
All right.
Move on. Who cares?
I care.
He's pretending. He's just pretending. He's just pretending.
No. Let's rewind this, because this is something we're gonna have to do, because the X1 is my best in show candidate, not because I actually care, in the sense that I really, really want it, but because it's ridiculous that CIG could make, God damn it, execute. Because it's ridiculous that CIG could make the 400 series and the hover quad before they made the fucking X1. Right? The X1 has the 400 has a bespoke freaking X1 bay, and they didn't make the X1 with it, and they're still taking time to do it.
You know why? You know why? Because even CIG doesn't care, Paul.
That they shouldn't have taken money from it. That's the problem. They took the money.
So, Paul, this is one of those things where getting up more upset about it makes it worse, because Daddy CIG is going to watch, and then he's going to send an email to John Crew, and he's going to be like, hey, we need to push this out a little bit longer.
Delay it longer? Yeah.
Delay it longer.
Well, see, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a campaign. So, because they always do like a candidacy every year for Best in Show. They usually do like, hey, give us your name, the ships you want. And then they take the highest voted ships, and they put those in the Best in Show. I want them to address the fact that the X1 is going to be put on that list of the best ships in game, even though it's not out yet, because it's not technically eligible, for them to go, yes, but it is going to be coming out later. So they can address that they are making it, and it is coming out, and address that it's been taking them like 49 weeks. It's taken the entirety of Star Citizen's development period, 12 years from them to make it.
Insert awkward silence here.
Yes.
They did what they did with the Connie. They've just had someone working on it when they give a shit, which is not very often.
Which is not very often, because they don't give a shit. But it's one of those things where, like, I can understand all of the list of the backlog of ships that are in concept that they haven't released yet, because they just haven't gotten ready for it yet. But the X1 is just a hover ship. It's just a hover bike. Just kick that shit out. Like, just pump it.
Paul, if you don't move on, I'm going to contact C-Daddy. I'm going to make a pin art of you as the lawman, and I'm going to get it, put it on the Redeemer nose, and sell it as a skin.
Go ahead, Tree. Sorry about that. I know you were go on my tangent about the X1.
Oh, no, I did it on purpose. There wasn't on. But yeah, we've got the whole sea to look forward to. We've got the Crusader Spirit series, which was, at least from my, from what I saw, everybody was wildly popular, and for good reason. I think that the Sulian is going to be a straight to flyable. I think there's an unannounced that's several months long that's pretty well under production. I think it'd probably be a straight to flyable, or a nearly so. And then, obviously the X1 is going to be very popular. We're going to have a few more unannounced, but really the biggest deal for me is the Polaris being in production, and it's not going to be out this year. If they get it out by Invictus launch week next year, I'll be pleasantly surprised, because the whole John Crew, a year to 18 months in production, it'll be right in between that at Invictus launch week next year.
It's scheduled to wrap up completion in September. That's what surprised me. It's sooner than I thought it was going to be.
The Polaris?
Oh, well,
the Polaris is on the roadmap to end in September. I was like, what?
That's
that early?
This is important
it's just because that's how far out it goes.
Yeah, that's how far out it goes right now. Yeah. And also, so when you're looking at the progress tracker, and I'll let Tree kind of, because he does this better than I do, but I'll just say, it's not the end. When you see it end, it's not actually the end. Go ahead, Tree. I know you
they need a little marker there then to say, this is not complete.
They do. At the very beginning of every roadmap roundup. They have an entire thing to read. You can read at it. Sorry, go ahead.
Summon the Jake. But yeah,
gamers don't read, Paul.
I know.
What the fuck's wrong with you?
That's
why you listen to us. But I'm last year they did the was it an ISC where they showed off the work on the BMM, RIP. I think we're going to get another one of those as part of like Invictus launch week or shortly thereafter for the Polaris. to show us, how that work is coming along, and that's what I'm really excited to see. Because when they showed us it was the interior rework that we got to see back in IAE time, and so now at this point in time, they are, just like with everything else, they're starting basically from the outside, getting the exterior gray box in, and then they'll fill in, from the inside, and so we got the exterior described to us, but and how it hasn't changed. But when they start going into production is when hopefully we could finally get some actual official metric changes, see how things really line up as far as visibility. But it's just I'm really looking forward to seeing it go into production. The other thing that's and no, I'm excited about it, but it's also, I don't think anyone is saying this, the Polaris is going to be probably going to be the first large capital ship that will come in, that from start to finish of production will be the first one with resource management in mind.
Yeah.
Not going back and having to have a rework or a refactor or anything. The resource management well underway while it was already well underway before it was even in production. And so they're building it that way in mind. And so I think it's going to be interesting to see how that goes together, as far as this is another opportunity for CIG to refine their process going forward with all the other big ships that need to come after. So that's why I'm excited for just to watch that.
Anything else you want to add to that, or do you think that's just in general what we have for this?
Other than the unannounced, is just the unannounced is so much speculation, really. But I think that I think you and both Execute said it, something Bounty Hunter related, because I think Bounty Hunter V2 is going to be a 320 feature. Yeah. And so if we don't get another actual dedicated Bounty Hunter ship, transporting the bounties and stuff, then I think that's a big missed opportunity.
I always look at the he's pretty much stolen all the highlights. But
yoink.
You look at the roadmap and you kind of see what's coming up. The other thing that was interesting when we were looking at the leak stuff there before is it also mentioned data heist missions as well. So I wonder if we've potentially got another data runner in there. I'm just floating that. I'm not saying that's what it is, but just you obviously got the cargo refactor that Tree mentioned earlier. Bounty hunting is another one. We don't really have what's our biggest bounty hunting ship? Technically,
the Blue.
Reclaimer Blue. Well, there is a module. Well, it's not confirmed, but there is a module, a bounty hunting module for the Reclaimer. So I just float that one as well.
For the Reclaimer? Or you mean the Redeemer?
Redeemer, your favorite ship. Sorry, I always forget your favorite.
I was gonna say, about that ship. I mean, I'm down with a bounty hunter module for the Reclaimer. That would be hilarious, and I'd love that. Like you roll up in a salvage ship, and it's just like I'm going to capture you and salvage your ship as for double profits.
Farewell, my friends. I have been chosen. I go on to a better place. Claw.
The Claw.
The variant. It's the Claw. Reclaimer Claw. Actually, I'm gonna rename my Reclaimer that now.
The Claw.
But yeah, so it's for me, it's always looking what's coming down the pipe and trying to associate stuff to it. We've just had salvage come in. I would be really surprised if we don't see another salvage ship real soon, especially now we're getting the last mining ship, kind of coming down the pipe. So I'm curious to see what manufacturer they chuck that in. Like, is it? There's a few there. Misk, Argo, with the industry and stuff. I wouldn't be surprised if one of those. It seems a little bit highbrow for Misk, though. Let's be honest. Where Misk is a bit more high tech, and Salvage seems to be a bit more low tech. So I kind of lean more towards Argo out of those two. You could also have a Consolidated Outland as well, but Consolidated Outland is, as me and Argo always say, is because they're like Elon Musk. They're hitting, the jack of all trades manufacturer. They hit every single thing that they can. Yeah. Where everyone else seems to be a little bit more direct. They're everywhere. It's there's nothing really groundbreaking that besides the stuff that's coming. And by the way, they've been talking about this stuff since like October last year. We really haven't heard anything fresh because I think server meshing is still that big thing. Like Tree said with the Polaris, like I don't expect that Polaris to be in until the server meshing is in. Yeah. The other interesting one I want to float, though, is much like the Idris missions that we have at the moment where we destroy Idrises, in the cinematic for the Antares, there was a fully complete well, at least it looks fully complete, Kraken.
Mm-hmm.
I want to float that idea. Do you reckon that we might see a shell, just a shell, not the whole thing, a shell of a Kraken for Idris-like missions in Pyro when Pyro drops as well? So, yeah.
That's like
I'm surprised they haven't done that already yet.
Yeah, I would.
I mean, because if they
go ahead.
Well, if they can do with the Idris game right now, where, well, that's the only thing because they did make the interior, so they did make it so it'll blow up. I don't know how much extra work that would be, but it'd be really cool if they could do that in the short term for missions in Pyro. I think it's a really good idea. Yeah, more variety. Yeah,
and you could literally have you know how Xenothreat is pushing into Stanton. You have Crusader Security or Microtech or whoever it is pushing into there as counterattacks. I'd love to see that kind of cross-system pollination things where they're, going at each other.
As Xenothreat, but reversed. Like Uno reverse card for Xenothreat. Yeah.
But I do agree with some of the stuff Tree was saying, like the Spirit's on the roadmap to finish in June. So I think that could be, as you said, 320 or CitizenCon or AI at the latest. Santoki, as I said, was September. Now you've told me September's the end of the roadmap. Well, then it looks like it could be going further than that. But that said, the last 3 sneaks besides this week's, so the last month before this very one, were 3 sneak peeks for the Santoki. So that thing's,
it's in gray box
textures and stuff on. Yeah, no, but it was colored. It was colored.
Yeah. Well, gray box. Gray box is it's basic colors and stuff like that. So, but it's definitely in a middle of the gray box phase rather than the end of the gray box. But gray box is only a couple of steps away from final art, and it's April right now. So I don't know if I could they may be waiting for it to be an IAE release rather than anything else, but I can't imagine it being dragged on beyond that. I don't think it's coming out for an Alien Week though. I think there's a couple people. Yeah. I heard Space Tomato said he thinks it's coming out Alien Week. I'm like, no, there's no way that's coming out.
I think the biggest challenge for it is the new thruster tech, and the vehicle tech team getting that working. I'm looking forward to seeing it fly just because I think that's going to look really cool. I won't be able to fly it for crap, but I think it'll look cool, and especially with people, learning how to fly it and getting skilled at it. I think that's going to make for some really good content to watch people, put it through its paces.
I'm seeing what Carlos. Chat. Carlos just talked a big thing about because there was a convention in Germany today, so.
The something 42, or I forget what they call it.
The Con 42 DE. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm just setting up ship posts for later.
All right. So we've kind of gone over this. We're kind of reaching to the end of this discussion part. I think we've kind of gone over most of the ships and kind of where they are. I'm going to ask a couple of rapid fire questions, which is kind of some short questions about ships and their kind of how they're going to function over the next couple of rest of this year. I'm going to start with you, Execute, on this one. Do you believe we will see multi-crew gaming, like the actual modular, or not modular, what is it called? The resource system in-game before the end of this year?
It's a tough one. Tier 0, yeah, I'll give you that. It's a complicated system that goes across every single ship in the game. That's why they're doing test beds, and we've seen that with other things before, where they start small and scale up. What was it? The Hull A and the Hammerhead with the 2 test beds. Obviously, they need the bigger stuff working, but they also want to try it out for single seater. There's the way that kind of works is 2 very different mechanics, because you've got one that's going from station to station, one where you're kind of essentially stationary. So they are kind of slightly different systems. I would expect to see it in the Hull A and the Hammerhead by the end of the year, but I don't think you're going to have every ship in the game done. No way. That's a huge ass job. And in fact, I'd almost look at it like the way they've done planetary tech. I think they'll refine it on those 2 ships until it is near perfection before rolling it onto others. Tree, what do you think on that one?
I think you're definitely right as far as the, everything they do these days, they're a lot better about managing their time and not getting too far into the weeds without proving something out first. And I think you're definitely right that we will see, because the other thing is they are building that it's not just for the PU, it is in Squadron 42, so it is going to see some testing. I wonder, like the Gladius got its components, the Saber got its components.
I think so. It was on there.
And there's a few others. The Retaliator rework that still hasn't made it to the PU got its components. And so I think that they are also testing that as part of Squadron. And so I think the initial release will probably have both the Hammerhead and the Hull A, as well as a handful of Squadron ships that they're implementing it on. Because the Squadron fleet that we interact with is really not that big. But I think you're definitely right. If we're going to call that a tier 0, I think that tier 0 implementation before the end of the year is definitely something we could probably see. 320, it's a coin toss. If it's a 320 before the Great Drought to 4.0, I would love it to be in 320. I just don't know if that's something. If we're calling 320 a Q3 early Q4 patch, the September October timeframe, I think that they could probably get it done for that limited release. I'm going to be very optimistic and say I hope that I think that they can do it. I think it's one of those things that they want to get in if we're going to be in a long window between 320 and 4.0 like we had with 318. Yeah.
Okay, I'll start with you. This one, Tree. The next one. The big talk that a lot of people ask about ships is ship damage. The procedural damage system is something that PvP pilots have been asking for generations at this point, it feels like, because it specifically talks about things like armor, and everyone will say it all the time. Armor is going to change this game. Do not focus on everything because armor is so important. And armor is connected to that procedural damage, which is, of course, connected to the resource system. Do you think we will see any even kind of tier 0 versions of that damage system in place with in Star Citizen this year?
You're talking like the physicalized damage, where the soft body deformation, things looking the way they should, but also being able to mitigate damage. I think that's something that's going to have to come after the resource management system.
Okay.
Just because I think that it's probably the same people working on it, but I think that them working on the resource system for the PU is post them working on the resource system for Squadron 42. So once the people are done with the resource system for the Squadron 42 ships, they'll get to work on that physicalized damage portion for those same Squadron 42 ships in order to get them ready for beta, and pushing them out the door. Yeah, that would be my thought. They've been working on the physics aspect of that off and on for so long, but haven't shown us anything in forever. So we really don't even know what that's going to look like. But the major blocker for that was PES, and PES has been in the main dev branch, since last year, and so there's not any reason, if they were waiting on PES to get certain parts of it done, that's out of the way now. It's more just a matter of manpower, and I think the resource management took the priority, but I think that's probably the next step in that sequence of events. So I would expect that to start hearing about that towards the end of this year and going into next year, but not in game.
Okay. Execute your thoughts.
So I'm going to kind of come at this slightly differently. Rather than the damage, I think the combat stuff is coming first. And the reason for that is in June, the different ammo types are hitting. We actually did an episode on this, and it was a huge can of worms that opened between me and Badgers just last weekend. We actually thought it was going to be a really small subject, and 28 minutes in, we had only got past the first ammo type. SA was on that episode as well. But I think it's going to change the game more than almost anything this year. Just reading through the different ammo types and the way they... Well, if you kind of look right now, if you look at just lasers, we've kind of essentially got attritions, distortions, and just normal lasers that do damage in the way they do damage. They're basically refactoring distortion to work in a different way. They call it distortion damage propagation. and that essentially can damage, like where it hits, it kind of can do damage through to components and stuff like that on the other side of where it hits. You've essentially got plasma, which is almost like acidic clouds that you can, if you're sitting in them, they will do damage to you. You've got flak that's coming, so if you if you shoot near a small ship, it'll do incremental, rather than the bullet going completely past, it'll detonate to do damage to the thing that it's next to, which is going to just drastically change the game, because so it's not you're going to hit far more frequently. You've got disarray that essentially is like bullets that can pass through shields and they pulse, so they're like mini EMPs, which is just mad to me, because you was instantly bypass a shield and you can put an EMP right on a ship. That just blows my mind. And then we started going into things like, what if you can code this ammo? So, and this was all of them. And then what if you get cross pollinations of ammo? So what if you got flak plasma? What if you got
produce like as a production thing? Because they have talked about crafting. Are you talking about like the idea of crafting?
Well, we were talking about types, but then we started bringing in manufacturers. So this manufacturer decided to make plasma flak. What if you can take the disarray ammo, and I said it's got pulses. What if it's obviously got a battery in the shell or something like that, right? What if you can make it so it does a couple of really big pulses, but like the battery goes flat really quick? What if you have a really small charge, but it lasts for like a whole minute? So you could literally choose and program what you do with that shell. So you can go, right, well, I just want to hit him and take everything out. I don't give a shit. Or I'm a really good shot and I know exactly where I got to hit him, so I'll make it so it's really small and lasts a really long time. So you can really stuff with the enemy how you want to stuff with them. So it was just really interesting to me.
So you think you think we're going to see damage types, like different like ammo and damage types added in before we get the armor and that other sort of aspects, those more procedural aspects?
There's nothing about armor on the roadmap, but Tree, you correct me if I'm wrong. It ends in June, yeah. Those ammo types, yeah. They're due for wrapping up in June.
I'd have to go back and look at them because they were scheduled in advance, and I don't know if they're still there or not.
Sorry, someone in chat lied to me. They said that you're the roadmap guru. I was lied to, right? So, yeah,
There's
too many deliverables to keep track of.
But
just search for weapons, and it comes up under EU feature team. But
yeah. Ammo, no weapon.
There are 5 types, and they're all very, very interesting. And I even think for gameplay reasons. Oh, so the last one that I didn't mention is incendiary, right?
Yeah.
And to me, I think incendiary is factored at armor, because they don't want you to just be able to have because the first thing the military guy said, why isn't there armor penetration rounds? And I said, well, I think for gameplay reasons, we know they go through the shields. They don't want you to go straight through armor, because then you can hit the ship. Why would you take anything else if you can just go straight through the shield, straight through the armor, and do the damage, right? So
it makes sense.
What they've done is made.
It would make sense that if the armor penetration rounds bounce off of shields, but they go through armor, so you'd need to have a separate.
Plasma, incendiary, flak, and disarray.
Yeah. So and then the damage propagation is the other one on there. It's called distortion damage propagation. You'll find it's on the same area. But basically with the incendiary, it goes in and they do damage over time. So to me, like, that's to kill armor. It lands in the armor and just chip damage on the armor until it falls off. And I think that's another thing. I think armor is going to fall off. Much so, like, you can send an Ares Inferno. It shoots all, because they literally said, you go read the wording. It's very carefully worded. It says an Aurora cannot damage capital armor. It doesn't say an Aurora can't damage a capital ship. It says it can't damage capital armor. So you blow off the armor with a ship like an Inferno, then you can have your whole of Test Squadron come in and finish off the Idris. So
that's interesting. Yeah, that's an interesting one. I was just gonna make a joke about how CIG is filled with a bunch of fire starters, so that incendiary is also so they can show off that cool fire propagation tech, so they can shoot inside a ship and start a fire, and then suck all the oxygen out. So it's instead of it's like a spite round almost. It's like, I'm not gonna beat you, but I can shoot this thing into your unshielded ship and maybe start a fire that'll destroy all of your life support. So you're gonna die eventually, anyways.
So let me open the first can of worms for you, Paul. It's ammo types. It's not just ships. So in incendiary rounds, it says there's a chance that they'll catch fire. So you can actually get incendiary rounds in normal guns and shoot other players. Oh,
Yeah.
shit, I'm on fire. You know,
walking around on fire. Why do you think they're working on the fire extinguisher gameplay? It's part of the gameplay designed. So
and we were like, we were talking about plasma in atmosphere and out of atmosphere. So if you get shot with plasma in space, it'll be like a cloud. If you get shot in atmosphere, it'll probably land like a pool or a puddle on the ground that you stand in and take damage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay.
So very, very interesting how we started. It was just a can of worms, as I said. Every time we started, someone else would think of something else, and then it just populated all 5 types, and it just became very complicated very quickly. And I'm like, I tried to narrow it to make the episode very narrow, and I thought, oh yeah, this will be 15, 20 minutes. You know where I'm going here.
Yes.
An hour and a half later, we're like, oh shit, I did not think this through.
Yeah. All right, so let's wrap this up because we're kind of going to slide over time. The last thing I want to talk to you about is capital ships.
Oh boy.
I'll start with you on this tree. Do we think we will see any capital ships this year?
Yeah, he told you earlier it's the Polaris.
Do you think we'll see that in 2023?
Not in 2023. Nope. Not even a concept.
Not even a concept. Execute. Do you think we're going to see any capital ships this year?
I have for a long time thought they've held off on at least the construction of bigger ships because they knew that they were going to bring in more ship teams. And when they did bring in the more ship teams, like we've talked about it before with you as well, like doing 5 big ships at the same time as an example, so you can cross-pollinate production. It just speeds up the production quite drastically. We know they're essentially doubling or tripling the ship teams. So that thing at the end of last year where people saying, 35 years to make all the big ships, that instantly makes that 10 years minus all the other stuff. It takes it way down to a couple of years at most.
Montreal just opened a new ship team. So there's a new ship team in Montreal. So we know that we've known that I don't think they've fully announced it, but like the dude who's the head of it talked about how he's going to Montreal to start a ship team on Twitter. So it's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
We know that's
possible. It was the Argo guy, wasn't he? It was
the
Argo
guy.
Argo guy.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, what if they just turn Montreal, and I'm not saying this is what they're doing, right? This is just, again, wild speculation. What if they turn Montreal into the big ship manufacturing people? That's all they do is big ships.
They're already
so they specialize in churning them out,
They're already the tools and the planet people. So having the team, that team just do all the big ships would also make sense as well. Just to say, hey, we don't have anyone to do the banner merchantman here. You
just made them sound like the wildest hippies ever. They're the tools and the planet people.
Yes.
That's awesome.
they're Texas rednecks or Texas hippies. They got themselves their chainsaw, their 30-06, and they tell you get off their property and not cut down them trees because them trees are people too.
Naz and I did a big podcast segment about the whole ship pipeline thing and how the table, the back of the table napkin math was just absolutely ridiculous when that came out. People taking one statement wildly out of context and not applying how development works at all.
Yeah,
there's just so many factors of that are just absolutely silly, and anyone who believes that is
they're after clicks, man. They're after clicks. There are some people in our community that have just learned negativity gets clicks, and that's what they do. They feed on, and yet, I think it's great. Maybe before release they get lots of clicks, but I think after release when they drop stuff like that, I think a lot of people are just going to kind of, I don't know. As I get older, you go into YouTube as an example, and you look at the titles and just count of the 24 images that roughly come up on your screen, and count how many try to make you pissed off. It's quite high every time you look at it. They are trying to make you angry, so you to get an emotional response out of you.
I've done it too. I'm not above it. I'm gonna do it. I'll do it if it works, especially if I think it's a controversial topic.
And if I say anything about Agrid leaving the show, people lose their mind. It's crazy. And the other one that works, Paul, that you and I always joke about are the arrows and circles.
People love, they love to click the arrows and circles. I think it's because it usually stands out, so people like to click it. In fact, I'll put some on this thumbnail for when it goes live. When we're talking about ships, so and if you got just to this point at the end of it, just let me know.
A big circle around tree and say, "Who is this? Oh my god!"
Well, no, I'm gonna take a ship. I'm gonna take an image with a ship in the background that's kind of blurry, and put a circle around.
Yeah, do that. That works really well.
Yeah.
What ship is this? I did that once. I took a concept art piece that someone did like from Reddit, and I just said, "What is this ship?" That was the title.
Yeah.
Heaps of people clicked on the video just to find out what it was, and then like in live chat, they're like, "So what's the ship?" Oh, it's just one I took, like, and then just debated and then just leave.
Well, I mean, the point is that like we did talk about a bunch of ships that are thing. I've talked about the other thing I'll say, and of course, if you want to talk about more of this, watch this later.
Yes.
Come back and watch this the VOD, because if you're watching this on YouTube after the fact, when it comes out in its own little standalone segment, I'll have that VOD up, which will be above Execute's head right there. You can click that and you can watch the whole thing, including the Q&A, which is much longer because YouTube doesn't like it when I post 2 videos at the same time. So I have to just post the discussion section and leave the Q&A later. So if you like that, go check that out. But for instance, I think we're going to see more racers. I think bounty hunting and racing ships are definitely going to be some stuff we're going to see. There's been a lot of not so subtle hints that the RSI is going to have its own racer at some point. Unfortunately, in lore, it's called the Nova, and that tracks with CIG's bad naming schemes. Like, how many Novas are there going to be in game? How many things named Nova? So
they're going to make a medical ship, and it's going to be the Holy Nova. And,
yeah.
Hey, we should start a rumor about the Lynx Hurston, or the old man variant of the Lynx.
Of the Lynx?
Just so many people.
Hurston
Just start it, and I just want to start it like as a secret, and then it goes full circle and comes back to Algorithm. Oh, have you heard they're making an old man Hurston variant of the Lynx? And then we're like,
Does it have like a fold out step so it's easier to get onto?
Yes.
And
it's got Hurston gold.
It's just got cat skin everywhere. It's all leopard skin, just everywhere.
All right, so chat. I want to wrap this up before we move into the question and answer session. But if you're watching this after the fact, go spread that language. Go spread it. Go spread the rumor of the Hurston grade, the old man Hurston grade Lynx.
The old man Lynx.
It's got
the Lynx. The old man Lynx. I think that would probably be where I'd go. Yeah.
It's got
spread
training
it in Reddit,
wheels, but they're little anti-grav things on the side to stabilize it.
Yes. Reddit, Twitter, and Facebook. I want to see this rumor going everywhere. Yeah. And
it's like a Harley trike.
Yes.
Keep saying things that are added to it. Like I'll go, it comes with a gold-plated walking frame.
Yes.
So keep add the little things. Just see how ridiculous you can make it.
Storage for the walker in the back.
But thank you to Execute and Tree for coming on and talking ships. We're going to be moving on to the question and answer session as always. And as I said, if you watch this afterwards, that'll be that link right up there. Click that. But you could join us live at twitch.tv/TheAstroPub or youtube.com/TheAstroPubLive. And on Saturdays at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. Come join us, talk for our talks. And yeah, like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black. Hold on. Now I'm going to do that because my stream deck messed up. Hope to see you someday in the black.
Need to put that factor thing in the center for the end screen.
Yeah, no, just that. This is where I'm going to talk about the Factor stuff, y'all. Again, I am sponsored by Factor, so if you're interested in getting it, it's one of those things where if you they send you buy a certain number of packages per week. You can buy as many or as little boxes as you want to. 4, 12. You can add more. And each box is a meal, and they're pre-made for you. They have a big menu of options you can choose from. You can just let them choose for you based off of your own preferences, or you can choose individual ones and swap them out if you want to, or add more if you need to. And every week they send them to you. All you got to do is pull them out of the box, put them in your fridge, and they're good for 7 days. You can pull them out, just poke some holes in the little plastic, toss it into your microwave, turn it on for 2 minutes, and you're done. And the food is restaurant quality. I would say it's like kind of like a Applebee's or something else like that. I wouldn't say it's amazing gourmet food, but it's good takeouts quality food for a discount price at your home. So you don't have to go out and get it. You don't have to order it. You don't have to pay like all sorts. You just get it. I used it extensively. The only reason why I'm not still using it is because it was just a little bit out of my budget. But I would highly suggest, if you're the kind of person who works a lot, who games a lot, who just doesn't want to have time to actually pick up, like cook and pick up and do that stuff all the time, get yourself a small box, try it out, and you can use my code for 50% off of your first order. So whatever it is, knock that off by 50%. Definitely worth a shot at the very least. So exclamation point factor in chat. Yes.
Well, for chat's benefit, you need to add a redeemable sound for Cookie Monster eating cookies while you're doing that chilling. And on that note, I did promise last time that I was going to be here that I was going to do this, so I'm redeeming this right now, Paul. So everyone that's here, enjoy the beers.
There you go, beers, all the beers for you. All right, I'm going to turn on the music. I'm going to be right back because I'm going to go fill up some water, and then we'll start up with the question and answer session. So. Use the restroom if you need to right now. X or Tariq as well, especially if you're in chat.
I've been saving that for a year to get to 50K. Just so
yes,
it takes a long time to get there.
And everyone complains that it's only 50 beers. It's like, yes, that's what you get.
But it's 50 beers each.
It's a long time, but
yeah.
Right. Oh, I'm at 41.2K. Tells you how often I'm actually able to make the streams. I always have to watch everything on YouTube afterwards. Are they both gone? Did they leave me alone with chat? I'm the one supervising you people? Oh no. Oh. Hi Nick, how are you? It's just us. Alone in a room together, finally. Yeah, I've been waiting forever I've got 41,255 pub coins, so eventually I'm going to get to 50K and then just blow it all on a ton of beer for everybody, just like the good old days when I was a young Marine with post-deployment money. Shots and cheers and lap dances for everybody in chat. How's everybody doing? Do you guys got some good questions for us? Paul doesn't share the list.
Oh, that's why I put my own questions in. Put your own ones in. You know. Artie's favorite ship and stuff like that. You know, gotta really rub it in. Like when you know Paul like I do, man, you know exactly what buttons to press. You know.
Got a question from Anonymous.
All right, it comes back around. Like today, he'll go on my show and he'll give me shit the whole time. You know, so it's different. That was the best time to claim it. Like I'm giving up 50,000 points. But I probably gave out more than I got. That was my whole plan anyway, so. We'll see. Well, yeah, I gave it to 200 people. I had to go to 100 to get to 50,000. Yeah, so I would have given them double what I got almost.
It's a lot of beers.
That's the redeeming.
Chad is very deserving.
No, I'm serious. I want to talk to C Daddy. I'm going to get some nose art made of Paul as the lawman, right? Like so the if you see the heart seeker's a heart with a pin-up girl on it. I want to get like a sheriff star type of shape, and then have Paul with a gun. Like I can show you the concept art I've done for it, like that, and then have that put on the nose art, the nose of the Redeemer. And then have some cool skin for the Redeemer that I'll come up with, and then we sell it for charity, and all the money goes stack up. That's my plan. Right, we can't tell.
All for it.
And that's why I don't wear pants. Yeah,
that makes so much sense. Yeah, I wish I had thought of that.
Yeah. Sorry, what's up?
Oh, nothing. We weren't talking about you or anything.
All right.
You'll have to watch the VOD.
I will have to watch the VOD.
You have to watch your own VOD.
See, a lot of people redeeming stuff. Hold on. Back to stupid. All right.
Yeah. I just realized, like, with about 200 people, when I redeemed those beers, I pretty much got double of what I put out. So it was quite worth doing.
Yeah, and a lot of people are redeeming other stuff too. So I'm gonna do that real quick. Yeah, we're good.
Best time to do it. Wait, can I redeem my own thing? I can.
Yep.
Oh no, wait.
You should have already.
Unranked? I'm unranked? What?
There's no ranks. I don't have ranks listed, so there's no ranks.
So what are beers compares to channel points? I'm confused. I thought they were the same thing.
So they're the same points. The things, the channel points, the pub coin is Twitch, and the beers are for like giveaways and stuff. So.
Okay. So I'm back to almost 15k coins. Then okay, I'll have to start again for more beers. It'll only take me another 12 months.
Start Q&A. Ask your questions here. All right, so if you are on YouTube, I have a questions channel. You do the little drop down, which is the top chat, and you hit questions. That's where you can ask your questions. And if you are on Twitch, you hit a little gold icon. You say redeem Captain's Table question. That's where you can redeem your questions. Both of those cases, you just type your question into chat. Once you have those activated, hit enter, and should be added to the queue. And I'll do my best to go through. We've got a lot of questions, so I'm going to try and do my best to get through most of that. All right. So let's get back to the questions. Question and answer session. All right, I'm going to have to answer this question first because Feathers put this in the YouTube chat. What's the best thing you love about the Redeemer?
You talking to me or you talking to Paul?
He's talking to everybody. He's going to ask us all of this. So I'll have to.
Paul loves it. That's how much I love it.
He's trying to make.
Paul loves it.
He's trying to make me say something nice about the Redeemer. And what I will say, the nice thing about the Redeemer is that it was made by fans for fans.
You should say, I love how it explodes, because that's what I say about Origin ships. I love how they explode.
I don't even care if it explodes or not. I just want to see it rusting in a pile on a planet. I want to see it in a scrapyard. I want to laugh at it. I don't want to pee on it. That's what I want to.
When are we getting Redeemer derelict settlements?
Do you want to retract that
way Paul can go into the rusted out Redeemer and squat in the corner and.
Yeah, you want to attack that before contact Sea Daddy and get him to make it so your X1 spawns with no fuel. It's unable to be sold or spawn in any other way. Yes. So you'll only ever get a brick every time you play. Yeah, I can go and we can make that happen. I know what Sea Daddy's like. He loves trolling you.
Tree, how about you? What do you like about the Redeemer?
Oh gosh, I've been of the same mind as you about the Redeemer since the very beginning.
Get the fuck out. That's the door. Get the fuck out.
Executes are outnumbered. Like he's outnumbered finally.
No, I wish that they had done more to modify it to just make it the internal layout just drives me nuts, and the Nutcracker engines drive me nuts because you've got the perfectly good Nautilus with Aegis style VTOLs. And you could have just slapped those on the side of the Redeemer, and it would have looked so much more Aegis.
There is actually a really cool concept someone did where they took the Reclaimer engines and they put it on the side instead, and it does look pretty. It looks pretty different because if you actually think about it, the Nautilus engines you're talking about are not as similar to the Reclaimer ones. But yeah, that I hear a lot from military guys. They're 50-50 split. People that think that they get the rule of cool. That's what those engines are. They're really cool, But you actually get the person I'm thinking of is Cyrus. He can't fucking stand the engines on that thing. He hates them. So your response is very similar to him. The layout thing I haven't heard before. So you're the only thing that I've heard people don't like is the ladder, but they understand why the ladder is a necessary evil because of the ship's layout. There's no really other way to do it.
To explain, I understand what Tree's saying. It's like, for instance, the drop seats are in the top of the ship. It's supposed to be a drop.
You do.
Why not in the bottom?
No, it's not. So the version that we have now is the long range variant. And if you actually listen to what John Crew said, the last time he ever talked about variants of it, which was 6 months before it came out, he just said the most likely variant, the first variant that we'll get, and when I talk variant, I'm talking modules here, is the drop seat variant. So you'll have drop seats in the top and drop seats in the bottom.
Yeah, but shouldn't they just have? They should have swapped them so that you'd have beds in the top, so the pilot can always use the beds. Because if you have that as a module that swaps out, then you lose any sort of use of it as a long range support ship. You know,
but you don't know what they know, and they obviously have other variants that we haven't even thought about. So one of the ones that SA came up with was it a variant that carried a cyclone. So imagine the bottom of the ship is literally a hole, but it's got like a walking frame that goes around it. So the wheels of the cyclone, and it does fit. I've actually looked at it. This would work. So you strip everything out. It's basically just like a walking frame. So you go down the ladder. Once you're down the ladder, it's open air cockpit. You get into the cyclone, and it just usually uses a tractor beam to deploy a cyclone, and it does the same thing to pick it back up. And you walk around and get inside it, much like you know how you get in the Merlin. You know how the Merlin's like sitting up in the ship. Same type of concept, but with a cyclone. I reckon that would be amazing, and then it all of a sudden gives you a reason for those drop sets too, because you need somewhere for them to travel. But just before deployment, they all go down the ladder, pick up their guns off the racks, jump in the cyclone. No, you tell me. SA thought that was a really well. He came up with it, but
yeah,
you tell me, Tree. Does that sound cool to you? Like a hot drop cyclone thing?
The drop seats upstairs just bother me with having the living quarters downstairs right there by the flipping door.
So you know the living quarters though completely go when the module swaps.
Oh yeah. I just wish that they, in order to get the living quarters to fit upstairs, they would have had to stretch the model. And it's like, okay, well, just stretch the model. Who cares if it takes a little bit longer? But put the living, Yeah.
So I think you would have also had it so that the module was swapping at the top rather than swapping at the bottom. And I think just doing the whole floor downstairs is a lot easier for them production-wise, because rather than kind of having two weird pieces like this with this little piece that comes off, it's just the whole floor goes and another floor can go in. It actually makes the process much simpler. They're actually thinking production over the actual.
I guess it does make more sense when you're thinking about this is the longer range version, and that's why it has living quarters, and you really don't need that in a ship of that style to begin with. So once we get more modules for it, but I agree with Paul that I like anything fan made. Like Paul, we talked about artillery. I love the Anvil Onager artillery concept. I think anything fan made is cool. And a lot of people give the next great starship a lot of flack, but I honestly think it would be cool to bring it back just to help CIG with hiring and get more people who want to build ships. They're trying to build the ship teams. You don't have to say that we're going to build your ship in game. Okay, we learned our lesson with that one, but allow people to think of cool ideas and show off their talents. I think that the community is insanely talented.
That's why we never got the next great Star Marine though. Because it's time versus money. You're never going to see it.
Yep.
It's just not worth the effort anymore.
I think you
They've got enough talent now that they can. Their name brings people in anyway.
Yeah, but I just wanted to do that as a promotional. I think they could do it as a lower budget with promotion. They could
maybe
not the big deal they made
about it. After release. Yeah. I just wanted to say with the Redeemer stuff though, like with the awkwardness of where things are placed, I can tell you now, having talked with Badges and SA, and I know you could think of one almost the top of your head, where when they've designed things, they designed them a certain way and it's made them awkward or weird, but they had to do it for production reasons. And it's probably there's several military things I know already. That SA and Badges have talked about in the past. So I'm sure you can think of at least one. So just file the Redeemer under that, and I think you'll be fine with it after.
Let us not bring up the Valkyrie's seats, ships beds, which are open to vacuum.
I just need some of the damn sci-fi plexi right there. But that drives me. It's my favorite ship. But that one thing, the Redeemer, the ladder has the little door hatch thing, so at least that closes off. Okay, put that in the Valkyrie, put some plexi so you can look down in there and tap on the glass when you need to get a hold of somebody. But sweet, every time you open it up to the atmosphere of some deadly planet that has a sulfur ammonia atmosphere, now that's going to get in your sheets and your bed sheet deformation. You're going to smell it, and
come on, Tree. There's nothing like the warm embrace of space when you're snuggling in your bunk. Come on.
Yeah, with your helmet on.
Or toxic acidic, like
literally
melting your sleeping pads.
It corroded my whoopee. That's the fourth one in 3 months. God damn it.
All right, let's get on to the next question, which is from NovA42. I'm not going to ask the question he always asks because we have a lot of questions, so I'm trying to get through some of this. But I'm going to ask his other ones.
I think I've answered it before too.
Yeah. If you could fast track any ship through development to include any relevant gameplay loops, what would you fast track and why?
Paul already knows my response, so you go first, Trey.
I'm really curious. Yeah, no, I want to hear yours because I want to see if I can guess it right.
I know what you're going to say,
obvious.
but it's wrong as well because I don't think you don't actually want the Endeavor to come out.
Well, you don't want it, but like how much? What I'm saying is, look what you get if it came in like a wrecking ball. Yeah. So much. That's why I'd pick it, just because it would force them to do so much shit. But
pick one, pick the Endeavor with a module set.
Oh no, I wouldn't do that. No. I just do the Endeavor because of everything you get. But as Paul said, they won't do it because it forces so much too soon. But yeah, but that is the one I'd pick.
And none of us in the Inforunners actually want that to be faster because we also recognize that the later a ship comes out, the more it's going to be complete, the better it will look. The Endeavor, when it fully comes out in like 7 years, will be one of those. It'll probably be CIG's masterpiece. It'll be the ship team's big announcement that they have finished all of the early work done, and it'll be amazing. It'll look amazing. It'll function well. It'll do everything it was supposed to do. But John Crew will have hated every moment of it, which is why it's definitely worth that wait to know that ship.
That's when he'll retire.
Yeah,
it's got to be reconcepted too, Paul, as well. So that was something. I don't know if you saw Grimm's video on it. He actually kind of said, well, this is what it could potentially look like with some updates, which looked really cool. But I'm going to go with Grimm on his favorite ship then as my second alternative, and that would be the Kraken.
Okay.
I think that is there's not a lot to that ship in terms of it's kind of combat focused. It's got a bit of repair in it. It's got a bit of engineering work, but there's really, other than its size, it is fundamentally a lot of its gameplay features are already kind of really in game, much like the Idris in kind of turn of phrase as well. So that'll be my choice if I can't pick the Endeavor since Tree ruled it out. So yeah, I'll pass it off to you, Tree.
Tree?
The Galaxy with the medical module. You know, I'm a civilian and military flight paramedic by trade. So I'm all about the medical gameplay, and I really want to see them flesh that out more. We're at tier 0, so give me more. So yeah,
really weird because Osiris is a flight medic, or was a flight medic as well, and he can't stand it. He prefers other shit. It's interesting. But
it's not the ship; it's the module. You know, I think the ship okay, cool.
I meant the gameplay. He does it in real life, so he doesn't want a medical in game. I found that interesting.
Yeah.
It depends. I know people who are cops in real life who don't want to do any bounty hunting. They're just like, I just want to do that. Yeah. But I also know military people who are like, give me a gun. I want to go this way and shoot things because, you know, it's just different strokes for different folks. To answer this question, I'm gonna have this is gonna be a weird answer. But the Legionnaire.
Oh, yeah, that would have been my second pick.
Because it adds boarding in a real way. Like in a meaningful, actual how boarding should work way. Not this sort of half slapdash version of soft death. I mean, like an actual thing. And it also adds hacking, which is a huge gameplay element that I think a lot of people are waiting for, because it's a support class. If we think about Star Citizen as a typical MMO, someone who's doing hacking is going to be a support class, a support role in any kind of engagement. You know, like, yeah.
Can I ask a side question? Do you think that data stuff is steering towards that hacking? Like
yes.
It's like a progress towards? Yeah.
I think so. I think that data hacking tool it's effectively a reverse Siege of Orison or reverse 890 jump mission where you have to stop the hack. This time you have to start the hack. So you have to break in and then start the hack. So I think
they have worked on hacking a lot, and they recently picked it back up. It's recently been mentioned again in monthly reports. You know, It's just a matter of time. Yeah, the hacking not being ready is the reason that the Legionnaire got pulled from the progress track in the first place. You know, it said pulled because of a Squadron 42 dependency. Well, what is that? You know, it's hacking. and so I'm very excited about it. The boarding actions in Star Citizen is the video that I'm working on right now. There is so much more to boarding in Star Citizen that people don't realize, that people haven't delved into. And it's there's a lot of lore behind it. There's a lot of gameplay design elements that are a part of it. There's going to be so many different ways that you can go about it that's going to be entirely up to you. There's so much player agency involved in boarding. And it's not just boarding for piracy. There's boarding for everything. And it's not just boarding ships. It's boarding stations and asteroid facilities, the whole shebang. There's a lot of interesting stuff to be excited about with boarding. And Paul, you've talked about it in either Captain's Table or Office Hours. I've heard you mentioned a couple times, but there's a lot more focus recently on FPS type gameplay. Well, this is where FPS meets the space sim aspect of the gameplay, and you don't have to fly the dang ship. You don't have to fly the Legionnaire. You can be on the boarding team and do nothing but FPS all day and have a grand old time, and the pilot can have a grand old time, and you can do a lot of really cool missions. And I thought I was done with the script, and then of course they announced with the new missions how the ones
the Xenothreat ones, the ones where you're not Xenothreat, the Ninetales ones where you have to stop, board, and retrieve information from them. Yeah, they're prototype, or I imagine they're going to be crates, but it's weapon or component prototypes or something like that. That's totally going to be you're going to get a marker, and you're going to have to shoot the ship, and it'll just make it so that it 100% soft deaths, and then you have to board and take out Ninetales and retrieve this thing. And it played totally into something that I talked about with the Tira, with where you have a limited objective style mission where you don't have to clear the whole dang ship. You can just get into that first room or two, get what you need to, and back out. You don't have to kill everybody. But that's going to be a lot of of what the game is going to be going forward, is these limited objective missions where you don't have to kill everybody in the UGF. You can sneak in there, you can be stealthy about it. There's so many ways to go about it. So there's a lot of really interesting stuff to be excited about with boarding, and the Legionnaires. The Squadron 42 method of missions, which is, this is your objective. How do I do it? I don't know. Just complete it. Good luck. Yeah.
Figure it out.
Paul, can I ask you a side question?
Sure.
Irritated considerably in chat said medical terrapin. At the end of last year, when Jax McCleary was doing that thing, he actually he mentions in the trailer for the Pisces, he says, "Oh, there's that new search and rescue version of the Anvil Terrapin." Do you think that's a tip of the hat to the medical terrapin is coming, or a search and rescue variant at the very least?
It was in that video. Like they had you had like, you actually saw the terrapin with lights on it. Like it was already in the video, and they've made jokes about it. The thing that I always like to remind people is that, like, people talk about as if CIG doesn't listen. Half of CIG used to be you. So they know what we talk about, and they're probably in this chat right now or watching this video after the fact, because they do that. Like, I know people who work at CIG who watch my videos, and sometimes I want to say, dude, it's your job now. You don't have to watch my videos. Like, we do something else to relax, and they're just like, this is my relaxing. I enjoy this. So,
we are the rejects that CIG didn't accept. That's
CIG could be right behind you right now.
Yeah, a few days ago, if you watch my latest monthly report video, Xylo showed up and literally trolled me by editing the monthly report while I was reading it. So they could be you, they could be me, they could even be yes.
XQ is looking real sus right now. Just saying.
Someone called me executee. I'm kind of freaked out. Like,
what was I going to say? But yeah, the other thing I was going to say about the Legionnaire, which is important to note, is there's an entire gameplay loop in boarding, which is its own game. It's Tarkov, but with support roles, in the sense that the person who's hacking with a Legionnaire while you board may be able to do things like access interior security cameras and then be able to know where enemies are based off of these internal sensors or cameras and guide boarders to the location they need to go to. So there may be an entire gameplay loop that we don't even see with this boarding action, with these boarding stuff, with these with that. So it's like a support while you're leading your team through kind of situation.
Short tangent, just because we're on the topic right now, and I'm literally been doing all this research for it. But so that's one of those things where one hand of CIG is not talking to the other. And if you go back and you watch the most recent video for hacking, was it was all the gameplay designers, whatever team that is, back in like November, December of 2021. 6 months before the Legionnaire came out, they were talking about you being able to hack the ship and being able to access security systems, thrusters, all that stuff, and being able to essentially, if you're good enough, and it would be very challenging, being able to disable aspects of the ship, open and close airlocks and doors, for movement. To me, that's a really cinematic and fun gameplay approach. But then in the Q&A, and then John Crew said, no, it's just going to be for permission for ATC. And to me, I side a lot more with the people designing the gameplay versus the person designing the ship of what it'll be, because that makes too much sense where, okay, we have boarded the ship and we don't want to vent the ship, so we don't want to blow the door. We need you to hack this door and, cut off access to these areas so we can make our way to engineering or to the cargo hold to retrieve this piece of cargo that's part of the mission. Like, to me, that makes the mission that much more interesting, having that versus, sweet, we're allowed to attach to the ship and that's it. And then the guy who's in that seat sits on the turret.
Does nothing. Yeah. Yeah, it's having a dude who has be able to pull up the interior map of a ship and be able to tell where people are and be like, all right, he's around that corner where you are right now. Okay, you do this, that kind of
like in Aliens. There's. Wait, where'd that blip come from? He's behind you.
Exactly. Or like the 24, where the assistant's always like, oh yeah, blah blah blah, a literal support role in a situation where, like, the eyes and ears that you can rely on. That's both fun for the person who's doing it and fun for the people who are on the ship, because now they have someone who can call out and do those sorts of things. That's kind of stuff. So that's the reason why that's my long reason of why I think that I would want to see the Legionnaire, because it adds so much more depth to the FPS side of things, beyond just
subscribe to my channel if you want to learn more about boarding soon.
Yeah, you should be checking out the Inforunners and Tree 0311, both of them, to hear and watch those things.
Shameless plug.
Hey, that's plug away.
God, that just gives me chills thinking about you're boarding a derelict and you don't know what happened to the crew, and that's the mission. And the crew was in Pyro trying to recover work in progress crabs for some zoo or some
Yeah, they're just having them crawl through the corridors upside down coming at you. Yeah,
you open the airlock and there's blood streaks and body parts, and oh my god.
Yeah. As I keep saying, Star Citizen's a secret horror game that no one realizes. All right, next question comes from Irritated Considerably, who asks, do you think that all open cabin ships should be fitted with air shields on their entrance? Yes, I'm asking because of my love for the Terrapin. I think they should at least have options.
As far as I'm aware, there's only two ships that have air shields that off the top of my head is the Prowler. The second one is the Cutlass, is the only two I've ever read that they've talked about.
Well, the Idris. The Idris has one in its front.
That's true. But the air shields were taken from the Terrapin, yeah?
I think they were. I don't think they have air shields in the Terrapin, but I'd love to see an add-on.
No. Sorry.
The Tavarin.
The Tavarin. They sound so anything that sounds similar, I fuck it up. That's why I say Reclaimer, Redeemer. That's why I say Gladiator, Gladius. I fuck it all up. Anything that's the same, my brain messes it up. So apologies. But that's what I meant. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, they were taken from the Tavarin. So, but I think in having it as an add-on to ships would be nice. Though I do think that some ships should have that closed off by just not air shield, just closed off, redesigned, closed off. Like we talked about the Valkyrie and and other things like that. But what do you think, Execute?
Long ago. God.
I was just going to say real quick, because then you can talk, Tree. Like little things like the ladder doors that they have open and closed, like on the Hercules, they should have just done those with air shields. Personally, I would have used it as the stopgap, like you said with the Valkyrie. I would have just, anytime they need to seal something up, it would have been cool. And I actually would like to see that as a tool in like recovery ships and stuff like that, is like a deployable shield that just goes out and closes a hole. So like say there's a scene in the Idris where the whole thing gets blown out, emergency shields, and like a guy just runs along in a spacesuit and goes dunk, and it seals it, and then they can like rescue people.
Yeah.
Because I think eventually we will see a rescue ship that is designed. Me and Badgers talked about it to totally, you have like a fire, like essentially it's a fire truck in space.
Yeah.
It's designed to recover, to rescue people from a, what do you call it? An explosive decompression.
Yeah. Remember me? I was on that episode with Badgers.
Oh, you were?
We talked about the fire ship. We need some sort of like a fire tugboat, like a firefighting ship of some kind, because we need some sort of search and rescue ship that has like the jaws of life or some other ways of like deploying an air like tent to be able to like get people survive, and get them treated, and then get them into suits and get them out, that kind of thing. So
I was thinking that would be a great alternate use for the Legionnaire. Because you have the storage for tools and everything, because that could be like what you're talking about, the, whether they're engineering tools to go aboard and help them repair the ship, get it underway, whether it's medical tools because they had they got a bunch of injured people. I think that'd be an good alternate use rather than, just fill it full of guns and explosives. But I think that would benefit a lot more from the hacking that you were talking about. Or, sweet, you don't have to hack it. Now you have access to the systems, and the engineer can control things remotely while people are going in with fuses and getting it back. Oh, sweet, the system's back up. The engineer on the computer can see that it's back up, and it can redirect power, all that.
You'd even really cool. Even have like an air shield grenade that you deploy as a weapon to, how you have like area of denial.
Yeah.
So essentially, it goes off and just blocks people in an area for a bit. You can't go in or out of that area for 10 seconds. You can see how that would totally, like in really dense firefights in an FPS. Look at Valorant. There's a really good example.
Like an actual deployable cover, but not just cover, like a deployable like.
Well, you can see the guy on the other side. Think about in what I'm trying to explain is episode 1 of Star Wars, where he's behind that red shield. He can see the guy. He can't do anything about it, but it basically means it just stops the fight for a certain amount of time. So medical guy can revive someone. They can all heal up a bit, and then it starts to dissipate, and the fight's on again. Yeah.
Yeah. I realized I put my title for the episode on YouTube as Ship of 2023. It should be Ships of 2023. All right.
Ship.
We're only getting
Ships
one.
of 2023. Yeah.
All right. Let's move on to the next question.
That's not food. That's a giant diaper. It's a giant adult diaper. That's what he needs. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm going to game all night and not get up.
All right, so Northern Trooper asks, with the leaks of a Misk Fury, what role do you imagine it to be? Medical, science, data running, fighting? I think we've talked about that enough. So
combat and medical. I think
combat and medical. I think with that. So we're going to go through that one. All right, next question. This is kind of a more controversial one, but it's an interesting one. Locke Austri, Kestrel11, asks, have you had any luck with a game since 3.18.2 dropped? I've ended up losing half of my money to bugs. I personally haven't been in 3.18.2 because I've been too busy. Have you been in the game since then, X?
Yeah. I always hate this because it makes me sound like an asshole, but I have not had a lot of issues. And I don't know if it's a content creator thing, but as content creators, we all tend to have not all of us, but most of us tend to have high-end PCs, right? And we have to, because we have to do content record and stuff at the same time. And for some reason, it just kind of lets us brute. Not always, right? I had trouble getting in as well. But when it does run, I just don't tend to have a lot of bugs that other people have, unless it's a back-end problem. But I'm going to be honest, I haven't had really any problems with 18.2. It was super smooth when I got in there the other day. So
I know Tree's stuck in Texas land right now, so he hasn't been able to play it at all.
With a work laptop. I'm geographically locked out of Star Citizen until late June. I get to go home for 4 days at the end of May And so I might get to see Invictus Launch Week. That's it.
Need board game ahead of Shelley's. What's that?
Oh yeah, the
thing?
remote gaming thing.
Yeah, the
where
remote play.
Where you can play it like remotely. Yeah.
Yeah, on anything. Yeah.
So yeah, like I haven't had to. I've heard mixed things, but I think the problem with Star Citizen is that it is still alpha, and as a result, it comes with all those problems where some people just can experience bugs that are horrendously bad, and those bugs won't affect other people. It's happened so many times in the Star Citizen development that it's just is. And the problem is, again, it's likely one of those situations where the bug itself is probably known and it's probably a problem, but it happens so infrequently that it doesn't happen so that they actually can like guess when it's going to happen, and it's such a pain in the ass to hunt down that they're just going to ignore it until it either becomes a huge problem, or maybe it goes away because they have something else, or they have more time to go back and look at it. And that's just kind of what we're going to see a lot with Star Citizen going forward, especially as Star Citizen is getting more complex with PES and, of course, with server meshing. We're going to see a lot more of those issues that are just downright bad, and then take them, beta to get all that stuff fixed up. So, Luckester was saying my PC is fairly high end. It's network stuff like 30Ks and desync. I've heard a lot of that was fixed with a hot fix they did on the launch day, but no.
A lot of it is there are so many issues that crop up with higher concurrency, and so depending on when you're able to play is going to impact how much you are exposed to a lot of these errors that are associated with the back end. All the back end services. For me, most of my playtime when I am home is during the weekdays. During the day when my kid's napping. I don't get to play on the weekend in the evening, so I'm not exposed to a lot of that. As far as concurrency issues, I also think that, and this is entirely theory, and XQ, you might know better because you have some experience with game dev and everything. But I think that there's a lot of people who try to get into the game on launch day or near around launch day when it's the servers are getting pounded, and I think it generates a lot of these issues, and I think a lot of them persist, and because it gets it's an issue that gets bound to your account with your inventory or whatever, and then it's hard to get free of them.
You definitely have a lot more in the States as well, because I'm definitely in a lower population area than you. So yeah, I'd agree with that.
So,
because I never play on launch day for anything.
Yeah, Australian Amazon servers are newer than anywhere else.
And desync is going to happen. Desync is going to get worse before it gets better. That's one of those problems. Because they know what the problem is with desync. They know how to fix it, but they've said that they're not going to really tackle desync until server meshing is done. So,
sorry, North End Trooper. I meant as in the physical servers are newer. Because we're one of the last countries to get Amazon servers. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah. So hopefully 319 fixes it. But if you're having those issues where it's just like, hey, I'm losing all my money, it might be a good thing to not try it right now, or try it later, or even open a support ticket. So, but again, it's one of those things where I've heard some people say it's the worst patch they've ever experienced, and then other people say this is fine, it's great. Like it's not as universal as we've heard with like the 40K issues and 30K09 issues and that kind of stuff. So,
have you met a gentleman called Daily Noob at all, Paul?
Yeah, sounds familiar.
Yeah, I'll get him to come on the show at some point and talk to you. He's another Aussie guy, but his solution is if you have issues with your game, you take a photo of your feet and you post it to Chris Roberts. Apparently, it fixes everything.
Just send him feet pics. That's what you do. Just send Chris Roberts feet pics.
Yeah.
Try that.
I guarantee you, after like 300 feet pics in his mailbox, he's gonna be on that shit like crack. Like he's just gonna fix it.
So Kestrel, just send Chris Roberts feet pics is what Execute is suggesting.
Dirty feet pics, just like covered in mud, or like in different romantic situations. Like, really go all out. Yeah.
All right. Jim Tonic asks, when does Consolidated Outland get more ships? My Pioneer needs company. It already has 3. It has the Hover Quad. It has 4. It has the Hover Quad. It has the Nomad. It has the Mustang and the Pioneer.
But, half of those we don't talk about because they're bad.
Yeah. Well, the Mustang isn't bad. It's just not as optimal.
That's the one. That's one that is good. The other two are the bad ones.
The Nomad is okay, but it's just bad in terms of pricing.
Yeah.
It's
bad value.
I will say, other than the Pioneer, the thing that comes to mind when talking about Consolidated Outland is mid. Consolidated Outland is mid.
Mm-hmm.
Not bad.
What do you mean by mid? Oh, well, okay.
It's not bad.
Mid-tier.
It's mid-tier. The Gen Z likes to call it mid, and young millennials like to call it, say mid. And mid is code word for bad, but not really. It's like, it's not bad. It's just not so amazing that I care.
Gen Z have got very high standards, so that's why it's
mid. Well, mid is not supposed to be bad because it's mid, but it also means bad because anything that is mid it means it's good enough that it could have been better, but it's not. So it doesn't.
Typical Gen Z taking the we make things worse. Doesn't call it mer, as in less slang, more slang, I should say, and all that, and they bring it back the other way because they're like all proper. Mid. No, it's not mid. It's mid. Anyway,
I would love for the art style that Consolidated Outline went towards with the Nomad really bothered me after falling in love with the Pioneer so much because I'm a big Homeworld fan. And so
you want me to make it worse for you? So they totally reworked the Mustang to make it so it can't land on its arms because it had all these issues. And the very next ship they bring out is a Nomad that lands on hover legs. Why didn't they just implement that onto the Mustang?
Yeah.
The Nomad, it just seems so out of place within the CO lineup.
Well, it's got alien tech on it. Like for the longest time, we actually suspected that it was an alien ship that they pivoted to Consolidated Outland because it just doesn't make sense. It seems like a Zion ship that got pivoted, and out of nowhere. Now, Paul, you can correct me if I'm wrong because you're the lawman, right? They never ever hinted that Consolidated Outland was working with the Zion at all. Like it was just
that came
completely out of nowhere.
No, exactly. It came out of nowhere. I mean, to be fair, hover tech has been around. Like Drake had hover tech, and it's been around for 200 years. So it's not like it's a suddenly new technology or even.
It's just weird that it's incorporated in a ship.
It's just
really
to
replace the landing gear.
Yeah.
I expect an entire chapter on it in the making of Star Citizen documentary. And yes, and remember, guys, they are making a documentary of the making of this game. So I want a whole chapter on how fucked up that ship was and how it pivoted and all that shit because it's really intriguing to me how that happened. But anyway.
Give more Consolidated Outland that looks like the Pioneer. That's all.
I also say this. Thank you, Mr. Gold Ember, who upgraded his membership on YouTube to Ultra VIP. So paying me more money. Thank you, Mr. Gold Ember. He also asked another question earlier, and I was going to answer that as well, which is asking about the. Do you think we're going to see the Polaris get the BMM treatment, where it's going to just disappear off the roadmap and we'll never hear from it again? Now we know
I will resort to violence.
We know that the BMM, for instance, one of the reasons why they shelved the BMM was because the team that was working on it no longer works for CIG. They left. They said that basically the team that was working on it is not working on it anymore. They're just not there anymore. So, do you think we're going to see the same situation where like the Polaris is just going to just disappear because it's too difficult and the team's gone?
It tends to be simpler in its implementation. Like you look at the gameplay involved, it's really, not to be rude or anything, is a clone of the Retaliator. It's torpedoes. There are some bigger components, obviously, and bigger engine and stuff like that. But you break it down, there's nothing that is really specifically bespoke to the Polaris as such. Maybe the loading mechanism, but then again, you've got that loading mechanism in other things down the line. So to me, there's no real roadblocker to it, where if you look at the Banu Merchantman, you could have released it as a cargo ship, but it's like they wanted the ships to be on, working before they released it. So yeah, I think the Polaris has got a better chance coming out than the Merchantman. I'll leave it at that.
Tree?
I don't think the Polaris is going to have any hiccups with production. Blizzard said it in chat, and I agree 100%. The we have a good amount of RSI art style. The Bengal and the leaked RSI capital ships from that leak last year. There's been a lot of RSI built, and yeah, it's different in ways from the Polaris, but they're not that far removed in terms of design and style, and it's just a big size difference. And I remember they said in one of the all vehicle Q&As, with Aegis, they can make Aegis ships, in no time flat now, because once you've made one Aegis hallway and one Aegis door, you've made all of them. Mm-hmm. Well, it's the same thing with Mist going forward with the whole sea and the other ones, and really it's going to be the same thing for the Polaris with all the hallways and all that. They've built the Bengal, and we don't know how far to what extent they've built the other capital ships, but all that interior stuff, there's a whole lot of it that is it has been made and doesn't have to be reworked and stuff. So it's I don't see them having too many issues. They're constantly hiring more people, and then they'll lose some because the people that work on ships, a lot of them are surface type people. In that that's their art, the type of art that they do. And so they lose some, but they also can continue to get more, because if it was that big of an issue, they wouldn't be building another team. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see CIG opening another studio in another place, like in Korea. We saw Aaron go out to Korea, to that province in Korea, and meet with the local government there.
Hey, Maca
office. Yeah, they met with the local government office, whose entire job is to recruit tech companies to come out there and put studios and offices in order to hire their people. That I looked it all up. That was there was a government agency. That's all they do for that province. And so I wouldn't be surprised if we saw another CIG studio opening. But we're gonna they're gonna lose some devs here and there. But they'll keep on pushing. It's but RSI being as established as it is, I don't see much of an issue.
There's a lot of places where they can get tax breaks like that. There's actually a whole place here in Australia where called the Valley, where they do tax breaks for any development studio that sets up there. So most of the big Australian studios like Sega's and stuff like that are all
set up a team in Australia for all the people who are going to be building the creatures and everything that can kill you. And they have all the stuff that they need.
They got all the reference materials right outside their front door,
That's what I was about to say. But what I was also going to say is the one thing that can't be beat is China. You cannot beat. So back in the day when I was working there, the biggest threat to Australians' development was China, because back then, I'm talking 20 years ago now. It was 16 cents on the dollar per hour. You just can't beat that. There was just no other place in the world could you get developed. And we've seen a lot of games come out of China because of it. Look at Elden Ring. All that whole FromSoft stuff is all based on that. You've got the Wukong thing that's coming. They are starting to get, what they do is they fly out or get people to live there, that like the directors are English speaking people, but all the art people and all the programmers are all native Chinese. So you get the key veteran people that can teach other people that have done this before to pass on what they know. And we know that they do that at CIG as well. So there's no reason they couldn't do a Chinese studio, or I guess there's legality, like there's different laws and stuff. But if I was going to go there and like if I wanted to build a big studio with staff that's less likely to rotate out, it would be China, because good pay. Like say they normally get paid 16 cents on the hour, pay them 18. And that buys loyalty. And again, when you're paying so much less for your workers, the dollar goes so much further. Now, you can take that as it will, but there are a lot of game studios that are popping up in China because of that reason.
I'm not going to get too political on this matter, but I do know that the current political situation with China and the United States is probably not the best time to start to try to set up a video game studio in China.
Probably right there now I think about it.
Yeah. So there's also like
Australia wins. Woo!
Yeah, South Korea and Australia makes sense because you also want people awake at those times who are support staff, who are supporting those local, because we know that South Korea has a large population of people who play Star Citizen. You know, Japan and China and Australia. And, you know, I know Australia, most Australians are on the east coast of Australia, right? So that's a completely different time zone from South Korea. And South Korea is a completely different time zone from Manchester and Frankfurt and such. So that area for a local support for language, as well as being able to support the game, like, so that the people in Austin can sleep, you know?
Yeah,
like,
so what they're more likely to do in China then is they get another company to build it and outsource it. That's a way around that. That's how I would do that. But yeah.
Didn't they recently start opening up servers or having servers hosted somewhere in Asia?
Yeah.
Do you guys know where in Asia that is?
Not a clue.
I don't remember.
I believe it's Hong Kong, but don't correct me if I'm.
It's wherever the AWS servers are in Asia. So, and I know there's probably more than one.
Someone in chat,
but
someone in chat at me if you figure out where it is, please. Yeah. But I'm pretty sure it's Hong Kong. It'll either be Hong Kong or Singapore, but I know a lot of the Singaporean people already play on these Sydney servers, so yeah.
But yeah, I will also. We also know that there's going to be a new studio in Orléans that's been in France, which has been announced, which is, but it's not going to be CIG. It's Turbulent. But you know, Turbulent's gone from being a kind of a tech support house to being a video game studio, so they're kind of expanding pretty quickly. So yeah, we're definitely going to get more studios overall, and the more that CIG can specialize in those studios, the more that they can diversify the load and build more stuff, you know.
At last report to like Turbulent isn't even half. They're like just over halfway to their goal of being 100 people in that studio, and they still have room to grow. And they're not even halfway for the growth for Manchester for that goal either. Like,
didn't they say 200 to 250 for well, not Manchester, Canadian? Oh God, I'm brain farting on the name for the Canadian.
Montreal,
yeah, sorry.
Turbulent.
See again, Manchester, Montreal. Both start with them. Does that weird brain thing for me? Sorry, apologies.
It was they specifically said they were going to build a 100-person studio with the whole goal of building star systems. Now the question is that 100 people just for that part of that team, the sandbox teams, you know, the locations teams, and that isn't counting, you know, the ship team and whatever, you know, the platform team, you know, or is that all under the same umbrella? That we don't know. So, but you know, like
often on
it's gonna be big.
You have some development studios, you have people that just move between teams. Yeah. So, especially when it comes to art, because programmers seem to be the more rarer thing, but you need more of them. And then your artists tend to move around because they do stuff at a much quicker pace. But again, it's changed a lot since my day. Artists used to do everything. Now you've got technical artists, animation artists. You've got you know, just they're a lot more specialized now.
Someone who uses 3D programs to do like modeling could probably also learn how to do animation or do technical art and other things like that, you know, HUD art.
You can learn it, but like it has a different mindset. So the way people move is very different from like the physicalization of the physique of the body, as an example. It's down to the point now where you get people that specialize in, say, vehicles or props, but then you get people that actually build humans as well. So we're actually even getting artists now that specializes. Like I know a guy that just does faces and heads. Yeah, that's all he does. And there's another girl I know. She does just bodies. Yeah, she doesn't do heads, so she just leaves the face blank, and someone comes along and puts a different head on. So we are getting into that area because that person studied at university muscles and movement. You know, and it's similar to So they know where the muscles go and stuff like that, and it's the same for there's people that study movement of the human body, so they do animation, and then there's someone that might have just done photography or is really good at doing faces, So there are people now where it's becoming more bespoke, and that's just humans. Don't even start getting into, might end up picking up a vet that ends up going to aliens and xenomorphs and all that type of stuff. So it's gonna change because it's getting more and more niche, but we'll see.
Okay, let's move on to the next couple of questions. These are some of these are a little bit smaller, so we shouldn't be able to be able to go on so many tangents. Northern Trooper asks, with 319 coming, bringing the possibility of stripping components, could we see a tier 0 merchant style of selling high-end components across the system, selling Atlases and XL1s or FR66s and 76s out of a Cutlass seems on brand?
I think you're more likely to see players trading with each other.
Yes.
Because we don't really have the shop mechanics yet, do we?
No, but I do think that this is definitely going to lead into my and your theory, which is the mini merchantman, the like a small size, like the small or medium or large version of the Banner Merchantman, because the Banner Merchantman's a capital ship, and the only other ship that does trading in that style is the Privateer, which is also a capital ship.
Also a capital ship.
So there is there's nothing below that, which there should be.
Yeah, I like basically on the way it works, I'm assuming that we'll see a ship that's got one shop and then one that'll have two. And I think the one that will have two, this is my guess, right? And I don't know if I told you this, Paul, because we haven't talked a lot lately, but I think it's going to be an Origin ship. One of the shops is high-end fashion.
Makes sense.
The other shop is a restaurant.
Yeah, it makes sense. Easy.
And I can just see that so well. High-end dining or high-end fashion, especially with the stuff that I don't know if you've talked to Buster lately, but she told me that stuff coming down the pipe from CIG that is high-end fashion stuff.
Yeah.
Have you talked to her recently?
I haven't.
Like apparently they've been designing like really nice dresses and all this shit coming from CIG. So nice. Ladies are gonna love it. So yeah.
What do you think, Tree? Do you think we're gonna see like the roving merchant gameplay in 319 or soon?
You remember how like in WoW and other MMOs, people would always be, blasting WTS, link to the item, and then asking price. You could totally have that in, in-game chat and, sweet. Okay. You meet me at, a station and, people will be able to meet up and, here is the item and they can see that that's the item. And, you do the whole, Mo Trader thing, which is, the jank version of it, kind of like when we were using the old contracts way to send money, but it isn't formal. But I think getting an informal way of doing that, especially if you are able to get some of those higher end, more expensive components, especially from looting. If people, okay, I got it for free because I looted it, from salvaging. Well, now then, you can undercut where it would be sold at, Art Core Area 18 for a whole lot more, and it's pure profit for you, essentially. And I think that, could work out pretty well.
I need somewhere to bring Algrid or Old Man Hurston, Tree. I want to bring him to your shop, Tree's high-end toupees,
Yeah.
I wanted to make this joke earlier, but I am
just going to run around tractor beaming them off of people and resell it.
No, just get roadkill. Sell that to him. He won't be able to see it anyway. He won't be able to tell.
That's how messed up my YouTube algorithm is that I started getting videos of weaves and all that.
I was going to make the joke that this is the first captain's table where I'm outnumbered by the bald men. So. They got the two shinies, and I'm up here all fuzzy.
I missed my opportunity to run my fingers through your hair the other day. And,
yes. All right, let's look at the next question.
Quick question: do you guys remember? Because they said something about like reselling components. They said that you would get something like 50% on the dollar for them.
Yeah.
And so if you're, you can sell it back to a shop for 50% of what, somebody could buy it for, or you could sell it to a person for 75%. You make more money. You just have to store them for a while, but, that person's still getting 25% off of the shop price. Everybody wins.
Yeah. You're not going to get that deal anywhere else.
I'm not even going to open a can of worms, but I don't want to talk about it, is theft. As in, like, if they can track the theft as well. So you've also got to find a way to get rid of the serial numbers or whatever as well.
But if it's legitimate salvage, it's different. If it's not a, so.
But there's also wear and tear.
That's true. Which is in game right now. So, and
You
will
just
be
need a
for the-
special beam to take the serial number off, and problem solved.
the
More
hacking
citizen.
beam, the thief beam that does all the thieving things.
Beam.
All right. Next question comes from YouTube, from Kiss My W, asks, is server meshing a critical dependency for the completion of capital class ships? I'm just going to go out and say yes. 100%. And it has nothing to do with server meshing. It has everything to do with server size. That's
But
it.
also probably the other one I'd add is interior ship culling.
Yep. Well, I think that's on or being worked on. I think it's part of some of the aspects of the game right now. I think isn't it already in a little bit? It may not be full.
No,
It was on the roadmap.
Ship
but they took
interior
it off.
culling got pulled. I think it's going to be something that they do post Vulcan.
Okay.
But that's the other thing is the server meshing, and everybody's like, oh, sweet, you can get dozens of 890 jumps together. And okay, yeah, you're going to start lagging too. It does hurt your frames. And it's one thing if you just park them all together. It's another thing if they're moving and the server has to calculate all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And 100 people in one 890 does not equal capital ship gameplay. That's not what CIG wants. They want 10 people in this ship, 20 people in that ship, 20 more people in that ship, dozens of fighters flying around, and the game will just absolutely chug.
You know what it is, though, Tree? It's called a target-rich environment.
But like when I say size, I mean player cap. We need to have one server able to handle 1,000 people before you can start seeing those sorts of games. We need to have an ability where you can see, 15 javelins facing off against 15 javelins, 30 javelins going toe to toe in the game not lagging. That's what they need to have to happen for like real gameplay.
They don't want the game to be, the entire server is clustered in this one area and nothing else is going on in the rest of the server.
Yeah.
They want it to be, the server pop is 500 or 1,000 and 200 people are having this big fleet battle over here, but there's multiple groupings of other people and solo people off in other areas of the game doing things because server meshing allows for it.
Yeah.
And so, I think, hooray, Polaris, here we are, if Paul's predictions are anything close to right, which they often are, and the Polaris is Invictus launch week next year, that's shortly after
4.0.
4.0, going live.
Yeah. All right. Next question.
Maybe I need to get another Polaris so I can upgrade to the Pioneer off the Polaris for $30.
Ooh. I'm terrible at these CCU games. I'm glad that you know how to do them.
It's good to know.
Anytime you need help, I'm there, Paul.
Will do. The next question comes from Irritated Considerably, who asks, has anyone seen anything about AI blades recently? And do you think they'll appear pre or post 4.0? I've seen nothing.
Ask ChatGPT.
Yeah. And I don't think we're going to see. Do y'all think we're going to see it before 4.0? Because I haven't seen it even on the roadmap. It's not even like they're not even working on it right now.
Nope.
So
that is so far down the road. They've got other things that are much higher in priority.
Ironically, I think we will see NPC AI on ships that you can hire before you even see the blades, because they already work on the buddy system. They have the AI buddy thing where like they'll follow you and do what you need to as part of missions, which is for Squadron.
There's so many behaviors they're building for Squadron that are going to end up in the PU. For your characters and stuff. But CIG wants to get NPCs and players doing what they're supposed to do before they get a component that's meant to partially replace them.
Oh, and C. McD, no, I don't think we're going to get 4.0 this year. I think we're going to get 4.0 like Eva Cotty or Wave 1 this year, but I don't think we're getting 4.0 until March of next year.
That's exactly why CR wrote it that way in the letter from the chairman.
Yeah.
In players' hands before the end of this year. Well, that means EVO. EVO are players. The language is very different from the other letter from the chairman.
And we may not even see it. Like it could slip into next year just because it's just not ready. They may want to be like, hey, listen, 318 was a disaster. We've learned from our mistakes. We're not gonna try to do that again. We're just gonna like suck it up and bite the bullet. Don't release anything this December, and then just roll on to the next year and release it into like March for a March release. You know, who knows? All right. Next question comes from Northern Trooper, who asks, as you know, I'm doing bits of ship design. Are there any alien mining ship? I know there's alien cargo haulers coming, not the BMN. The other one is the cargo. One is with cargo outside. But what about alien mining ships? X.
All right. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I missed the entire question because Agrid is telling me that his in support is waiting for us.
Okay, it's going to be. We've got some more time. We've got about 20 questions left, and so I want to try to get through. Some of them are pretty quick. So the question is, alien mining ships. Are we going to get them?
Yeah, as I said kind of before stream, I reckon a lot of the extra alien ships going to come with their expansion packs. We may get one or two outliers, like, you know, kind of what we've got already. We do know there are some human ships that are built in Zion space, as an example. So there will be cross-pollination, just like there is between countries in real life. It'll be the same thing, but I think most of the ships that we get for the Zion, as an example, will come with, say, a Zion expansion pack, a Zion campaign, things like that down the road. But yes, there could be an outlier where we get an alien mining ship. We might not get any mining ships. Might get a salvage one. Up to CIG's prerogative.
Tree?
I'm just really surprised that we haven't really had any lore about it. Like, I figure we will get lore regarding that before, the ship.
Because the vaguer it is, the less likely they have to backtrack and undo lore.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah. It's just, it does seem kind of like it's one of those things where, they would at least mention it. Vaguely, because I mean the writer's guides for the races there's a lot of depth. There's a lot of stuff in there that a lot of people would consider fluff, and but they didn't really touch on really any of that. And so I'm looking forward to when they start writing that in, as part of developing what you're talking about, Execute, because I think that'll make for really interesting reading. And seeing how CIG differentiates things. I hope it isn't, color it differently and make the device look it differently, but otherwise it's the exact same. I hope that it's got some more flavor to it to make it feel alien. But I guess we're going to have to wait and see. I wouldn't expect it anytime soon.
All right. Next question comes from Payscape, and I'll step away for a few moments here, and I'll start with you on this one, Tree. After 318 has been out for a while, so basically, 318's been out for a little bit now. How do you feel it's changed the PU? Maybe it's too early to tell. How do you think 318's changed the PU? So,
I don't know. I think the biggest thing is it's, I think I've seen a lot of reactions of people who are reacting to the soft death mechanic. I think that's a very positive change, and so I think that has changed how people play in a lot of instances. Not everybody, of course, but I've watched a lot of content creators who are going in and have soft death ships and have been doing boarding actions and having a really good time. And I've seen a lot of reports of people who were boarded, and it was they got killed, or whatever, but it was still a experience, and one that was interesting and different versus just, oh, sweet, my ship's about to blow up and I'm going to die automatically. And, okay, well, you may take a little bit longer to die, but at least you have a fighting chance, and it makes the game more interesting. And then there's just constantly reports of stories of people finding things and, trying to piece together, what the hell happened here, and just in a random location where there's wrecks and pieces and other things persisting. And I think that is just so incredibly cool, despite the issues. And so I think we're still in that early phase, even though it's been out for a month and whatever. I think there's still so much to learn and adapt, and we've been so we've been playing the game one way for so long, the reverberations from it are going to continue, for quite a while, especially as they continue to add more to it. So I think it's definitely a really positive change. And I think when it comes to content creation, not for me, but watching what other people are doing, I think it's been really refreshing to see what content creators are doing with it.
All right, X, what do you think? How do you think 3.18's changed Star Citizen?
Just more performance improvements on the back end. It runs smoother. That's about it, really. It is a back end patch. Not going to leave it at that. You're noticing it more. Things are more smoother. Just a smoother experience. And it was like a lot of people say they don't notice things, but a back end patch you don't really notice. It's almost like a quality of life patch. But and I think when we get how people complaining when it went live, like all the casual people that came back, 3.18's out, I'll come check it out. The same is going to happen when server meshing hits, and it's going to be even worse when the dynamic stuff hits as well. Like there'll be people that lose everything and they're going to go ballistic.
I think that 3.18 has changed the game in a way that is more subtle. Some of it's kind of like what Tree said and a little bit more what XQ said, but I think you're going to start seeing it by the end of this year, where people are showing off those like, what the fuck happened here posts, where like, it's just like someone in a funny position, like two people in funny positions in a cave, which are players, and they're there somehow. Either someone positioned them where they ended up like that, or like, an aurora that's half destroyed next to a wreck of a constellation. It's like, well, I know what happened here. Someone went into the other one and both of them ended up dying, or something like that, and we've already seen this with like garbage and trash and like Xenothreat alone. Like the amount of debris that Xenothreat creates is pretty intense. So the amount of stuff that's left around that you have to avoid hitting because of how complicated it is. And that's the sort of thing that, on top of things like salvage, which are a big deal because you add more stuff. I think most of the stuff we will see is long-term changes. And I think we're going to start to see people play the game slightly differently, add in new routines to their play, or be more cautious, or, in other ways as well. So, all right, we're going to move on to a couple more questions because I want to try to wrap this up. Not going to answer that question. Sorry, Northern Trooper. It's not a bad one, but it's a pretty long answer for that one. Aurelius Indominus asks, best ship for fighting Xenothreat. What do you think, Tree?
Ooh, for fighting Xenothreat. Oh.
Paul's favorite ship. Let's move on. We're done.
I mean,
I hate
you're
not
it,
wrong.
But you're not wrong.
That
or a fighter. Any fighter.
Yep.
Pick your favorite.
Hurricane's pretty good.
Hurricane
as well.
Hurricane would be good.
The Hurricane.
Scorpius would be good.
And then, of course, tallies.
Yeah.
Tallies and torpedoes. Yeah.
Mustard
North
actual.
Trooper.
Always.
North Trooper, email me on Discord and I'll answer it for you. It's fine. Or not email, message me on Discord and I'll answer it. All right. Next question.
The question he asked is more like, what are you going to do during QT? Like, what kind of things can happen during QT?
Eat my face hole.
Yeah, or for like to keep crews active. It's like there's a long list of things, and it's like we're already well over 2 hours.
That's an episode in itself. Actually,
how long is
a good episode.
All right. Next question. 319. Okay, so Doc Plepus asks, with 319 Evocati, how long do you think we'll have before a live release? 1 month minimum.
Yep.
So it is currently 4/22.
I can tell you the exact date.
Because they have the announcement, don't they? Yeah.
19th of May.
Yep. And 1 month
go
from
live
Friday will be
the Thursday before, and then they'll turn on Invictus Launch Week the morning of that Friday, and
and they do the cycle thing, so they cycle it all through every hour for like 24 hours, so they'll do a couple of days of that maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I'll get on my footage as I usually do beforehand.
That's what I do too. The 11th...
Evo reports are saying that it's very stable, obviously has bugs, but otherwise stable. Like it wasn't randomly crashing.
It's an 18.2 branch.
Yeah.
It's a branch.
That's why they're using it, because they wanted to make it more stable. So I would say 11th. May 11th is what I'd say. May 11th or 12th, because they usually like to release it about a week before the event if they can. So, and if the 19th is when it's coming out, then yeah, the 11th.
I just realized I'm going to have to put a post up getting you boys there for episodes. No sleep for 12 days.
No sleep till Sydney.
Yeah, that's it. Basically.
Next question comes from Ionic Gecko, who asks, depending on how complex CIG makes drones and drone gameplay, do you think there will ever be a drone carrier ship? We already have one, and I think we'll have more. It's called the Vulcan. People forget it exists, but it's a drone carrier ship. That's it's only like a certain point. But in terms of like combat ships, yeah, I think so. What do you think, X?
This has been floated a lot, like a really big one that has a whole bunch of combat drones. But some of the most boring ships, if you think from a gameplay perspective, the way drones work is essentially it's just you flying
a tiny ship,
but remote. So wouldn't it be more exciting to have a ship? For me, it sounds more exciting. It's like a bunch of small Merlins or something, where every ship, like if you're just controlling 6 ships at once that fly in tandem, it just seems like it kind of does break a bit. Like, you know what I mean? Like if there's no consequences, like, oh, okay, they shot my 6 ships, let's spawn another 6 and send them out there, where they're actually in the fighter and they can lose their life. There's a massive disconnect there. And also we also know that Chris Roberts doesn't like robots. Like he's actually said he doesn't want robots in the game type of thing.
That's one of the reasons why AI is outlawed in the lore, is because he didn't want robots.
It just makes it difficult for me. Like I can see why you would want it, and I kind of want it too, but I got to put on my reasoning hat, and I think it's just something that they're going to kind of keep drones more to utility support, industry and utility. I just like if it was like a massive repair ship. Like, can you imagine a repair ship between the Vulcan and the Crucible, and it's just a hive repair swarm ship? Like I can see that, right? And then you customize the drones on it, and all of a sudden it's a salvage drone ship. I can see that. But to have all these combat drones, like
you're not going to have the. Yeah, I think you're going to have what is it? The from StarCraft, the Protoss
carrier.
Yeah, you're not going to have a Protoss carrier. I don't think you will.
But where I'm going is, right, you're essentially taking the weapons off the ship and putting them onto these drones, right? Yeah. So again, it's just mobile weapons, right? So essentially, all you do is ignore the drones and go for the main ship.
Yeah. So some risks. Yeah.
As long as the ship, like the ship just, like you have to limit the range at which the drones work, because that way the drones have to stay with the ship.
Yeah.
If they do it like that, that balances it.
Jin's talking about there's that repair bot as a stretch goal. Yeah, that's not a sentient like
AX,
robot.
AX something. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be it's more of an assistant. It'll do like mundane tasks. It might replace like an AI that's doing like repair work, but it's not going to be something that you can just say, "Hey, go off and, combat fight ships for me." It's going to have to have some sort of, it's basically like a reskinned NPC for
not to mention though, like if you look at the Vulcan's drones, they're essentially hand tool drones. So if you take that drone concept and run it out, the guns on the drones are probably going to be size 1s or size 2s, so they're going to be fairly small. So they're going to be fairly weak. It's not like you're going to get an Ares drone that's got size 7 capital guns on it, right? So a drone ship is only going to be good at taking out fighters. That's it.
Yeah.
You can swarm a fighter and hit it with 6 or 7 drones and just overwhelm it. But essentially what it's going to make that ship do is flee. It's not going to stay around and fight you because it's overwhelmed. So,
Tree, what do you think? Are we going to see drone carrier ships?
I don't think we're going to see larger drone ships with larger numbers of drones, just because it doesn't really add anything. It just means, if you have a larger Vulcan, it just means you can service more small ships and perform limited repair, refuel, resupply. So it doesn't really add anything. It doesn't, you can't stack more repair drones onto it and then be able to fully repair a capital ship or something. Because all they're supposed to be able to do is patch things up and potentially replace exterior components. But one thing I noticed in the Galactopedia the other day I don't know when it was added. I just know that it's been within the last year. Is they added an article for research drones, and the way they talked about them is if you have essentially if you have enough rep with the UEE or whatever UEE sanctioned research group, UPark, whatever, you can use these research drones to go down to protected planets and get samples and take recordings of the protected species and such. And I thought that was really cool, but it also changes what I used to think about drones and that them being very short range. If you have a research drone, that can go down to a planet, well, you're not going to take your Carrack down to the planet, land it there, and then go get your samples. You're going to fly your drone down from down from orbit in order to do that and not disturb them.
You could put a Carrack in atmosphere before you got to deploy the drone, because the drone can't go through atmosphere. That could be another way they do it.
Well, I was just thinking that because they don't want you to land your ship, they don't want you to disturb anything. They wouldn't want you to see your ship.
Yeah, but it's so high up, they're still not going to see it.
But it's still a long ways versus with a Vulcan where you're repairing that ship and it's like dozens of meters away.
Yeah, it's like maybe a kilometer away max. Like it's probably more like 500 meters away.
And we're potentially talking about launching a different type of drone or a different class of drone with much longer range than we initially thought with the ones that we've always seen. That's the only thing I can think of as far as additions to drone gameplay versus what we already know. It would be a research ship or another module on the Endeavor or something where you have more drones, because that adds to that being able to get more samples from more locations from a ship that's in orbit. That was just a thought.
I can hear Disco Lando in my head, like he wants to have drones that basically connect together like Voltron. And then they can do bigger and more complex tasks.
I want transforming drones that can transform into robots. That's what I want. I want that. I want
cats. I want them to turn into cats and turn into Voltron.
Yes, perfect. All right, so we're going to go through a couple of these because, again, we still got 15 questions left. So I'm going to go through some of the fun ones, which are... how much should I expect? This is from Execute, who asks, how much should I expect to pay for my Paul Redeemer Shelley skin for your favorite ship, AstroPub? $69.42. That's the answer. Or $42.69. $42.69. There we go.
Did you like how I called you Paul Shelley?
Yes, I like that. That's funny. It's funny. You're very funny. I'm glad you. I know why you're no longer a comedian, though. That's for sure. Yeah, two questions, which are kind of asking the same question, which is, when will we see another Vanduul ship, and will we ever see a Harvester in game? Which is a deep cut. Thank you, Humpa Man, for that. For those of you who don't know, the Harvester is the Roomba from hell. It is a Vanduul ship that gets dropped on the planets that they're harvesting, and it just eats everything. I mean everything. It chops up trees, rocks, grass, people, animals. Anything that gets in its way, it gets sucked in and then gets turned into this slurry that is then used for everything the Vanduul use. They use it for food. They use it for ship repairs. They use it for construction components. It's just this gray goo that they create with just literally like harvesting planets to their bare bones. So will we ever see the Harvester in game? Oh yeah.
Squadron 42.
Probably Squadron 42, and probably after that we'll probably have to fight them in game at some point.
I totally see bounty style contract missions for mercenaries to go take out harvesters, who are operating on formerly human held worlds.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But in terms of the next Vanduul ship, Execute, when do you think we're going to see the next Vanduul ship in game?
Squadron 42.
You think we're done until Squadron?
I don't know. I think what they've released now is just because they were very generalized and the more common. Like, you're not going to see some of the rare ones like the Harvester and stuff like that, especially for players, not for a long time. And again, from our talks, I wouldn't actually rule out a Vandal expansion pack down the line. I really wouldn't. You know, we talked about this the other day. Like, from a political point of view, how interesting would it be? Like, and the example I gave would be from World War II. Can you imagine a telling of the story from the other side of the fence, like from World War II, so you can get that, you know, because there are good people and bad people on either side of war, you know, so you could have seen some of the good people going through the shit on the other side with that were out of sight, out of mind. It's the same thing with the Vandal. There would be Vandal that was sympathetic to our side or the human side, etc., and they were like, we shouldn't be doing this and stuff like that. So you could, again, have those intriguing campaign developments. So yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Tree, when do you think we'll see? When do you think we'll see the next Vandal ship?
I don't think they're going to give us anything viable in game. You're like pledgeable for you know, at least until after Squadron 42. I do think that we're going to see potentially more, you know, you said this the other day, Paul. People are sitting on or sleeping on, not sitting on. Oh God, people are sleeping on the Arena Commander feature team, and I expect I expect there to be more added to the Arena Commander team in terms of the Vandal and potentially ships added to like Vandal Swarm. As well as like I want to see another I want to see a scenario for Star Marine where you are on a Javelin and you have to clear out Vandal who have boarded it via cleavers.
I see. The thing is I've been reading the Squadron 42 monthly reports, and I am looking forward to the absolute shit show that is going to be fighting a Vandal in CQC. Like,
oh yeah.
Do you all like Dark Souls? Because you're gonna be Dark Souls is gonna get into your Star Citizen. There is literal melee attacks which will one hit kill you unless you know how to dodge them. And so
you gotta imagine
the pointy stabby bits in your guts. Yeah,
they'll have sound cues and stuff like that. Hearing them come, so you'll probably hear their feet on the ground, or you'll hear the wind up of the wind up, stuff like that. Yeah.
They'll definitely be timing you have to make. You were going to say something, Max, about that?
No, I was just like, you can tell that those what you call them again, the ships that land and deploy. I forgot the name.
The Harvesters,
the Cleaver.
The Cleaver, yeah. Oh, the Cleavers are definitely remnants of the ships like in Halo. If they use those ships for scripted spawning, so essentially like blow open a panel and then like a whole bunch of the ship. It's going to be exactly the same thing in the Squadron 42 campaign. You can see it now. There's some ship that you're going to be on that's going to get boarded, and they're going to use it to spawn all the enemies into where you are.
They did 2 very short clips in the visual teaser and the trailer showing where and it was in an Aegis hallway, so I assume it's on the Javelin, because afterwards they show a Javelin all broken up, but you can see where the dang thing has come through, and there's the big old circular hole where the borders come out of, and I snagged those for my video. But when I was reading about the Cleaver and the Void Bomber, you know, and how those all work, and reading the monthly reports and hearing about the Vandal combat behaviors, I'm like, this is going to be so cool. Oh my God.
Well,
I'm going to get stabbed so many times.
The combat behavior for the Vandal is interesting. So, like, when do they choose that the Vandal uses it as a spear? When do they choose that the Vandal uses it to try and shoot you? Like, what's the ranging? Like, do they, you know, are there particular, like, we know that they're working on personality type. So is there some kind of like young Vandal that's just a crazy lunatic that just goes straight at you with a melee and runs, you know, completely across the room? Is there like this scared old dude that just sits at the back trying to shoot everything? You get where I'm coming from this. So you put all those personalities in, and the Vandal become some of the most interesting AI you've ever seen in a game.
Oh yeah,
same as the human stuff too.
In CQB on a ship that is on fire. Oh
yes. while people are running around and you're having to maybe, I don't know, escort a VIP to get out of the area. That's
is there
after the battle? Here comes mop and bucket guy.
Yeah.
Is there a cornered Vandal that basically takes out the window and explosive decompresses the entire room
because they can survive in vacuum? Kills
everyone else, stick it out. Yeah, all that type of shit. So you can see all the really cool shit they can start to play with. And if that's dynamic, every time you go through, it's different. The Vandal, the Vandal gets picked off and there's only one guy left, so he does the whole window thing. You know, the next time you come in, does the humans die off? And they, you know, the human does. Oh, it's like, oh shit, and he just caps himself. You know, because he's got no other option. He doesn't want to be captured. You know, there's so many different ways they can take that, and I'm really looking forward to see how different it is.
And it's important to remember that all that stuff is going to be transported into Star Citizen, because all of that stuff is going to port right into it.
That's what I was about to say.
If you end up in the wrong
at the start of the
system,
episode, do you remember way back at the start of the episode, we were talking about how they're essentially maturing and developing stuff. That's essentially what they're doing now with all that stuff. They're developing it in. So rather than porting it over all the time, they're maturing it in Star Citizen, and then in the Squadron 42, and then when it's finally finished and tested and all worked, all the bugs are kicked out. That's when they're putting into Star Citizen. So I actually think that's a really good choice, because then that removes all that buggy shit people have to put up with, and we get less complaints.
Yep. Yeah. I'll also say that it's important to note that all hostile animal AI behavior is based off of the Vanduul combat behavior. So any kind of pack animal or hostile animal you'll encounter in the verse is just a Vanduul reskinned. So you'll see some very interesting combat behavior, because they won't act like a human enemies, or even like Xi'an or Tavaran when they get around to making those. They'll act completely different, depending on you see them. So
yeah, it's going to be really weird when all of a sudden the guy that you're fighting just has a munching for grass.
or you see a cow, and suddenly it stands up on two legs and pulls out a spear and starts chasing you down the the open field, shouting in Vanduul,
pulling its eggs off and throwing them at you.
All right, we got a couple more of those quick questions. Edible onigari in game when, and edible pizza in game when. So for those who don't know what onigari is, it's rice balls. It's a Japanese style rice ball.
Probably in line with the pizza delivery missions, if they ever get around to doing those. Yeah.
Extra status tier 2, multiple bites.
Yes. Extra status tier 2, baby. I think that's when we're gonna get the onigari. I think we'll probably not get the onigari until Centauri comes in, because I think they'll save that.
Does that mean
is that where Saisei
pineapple off?
Yes. Tier 3 is taking the pineapple off the pizza. What was that, Tree?
Is that where Saisei is? I always forget where Saisei is.
Saisei is in Centauri. Yeah.
Okay.
So Centauri is the weirdest system, because it's got you've got Saisei in Fujin City, and then it's like next neighbor, Centauri 2 is Yar, and it's just a desert. It's all it is just like it's central Nevada. Is what it is. So you've got Tokyo and Nevada right next to each other. So
oh dear. Lived in Nevada for years. Oh god.
like I'm talking like Silver Rush, Nevada, like in the middle of nowhere, kind of boom town areas.
Yeah. Winnemucca and Elko.
Yeah.
Interesting places. Yeah.
But yeah, so we actually know about that. We actually know that Extra Status T2 is going to be when they have that sort of those multiple byte options. So it's in the roadmap. So this is a quick one. What happened to the Grey Cat hanger buggy skin from the Best in Show? They haven't remade the Grey Cat, the PTV. They haven't remade it yet. They said that after they remake the PTV, that's when they'll do that thing. But they haven't finished that yet. So
they also told us September too, didn't they, Paul? They said next year when it goes up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're probably most likely going game around September.
Mm-hmm. In a previous in a related one. Do you think all ships need a gold standard pass before we can truly get a 4.0?
No.
No?
Nope.
No. Yeah.
You've only got to have a taste of it on one ship, and you can see the potential of it, and it rolls out to others. So that's you really only need it on one. Honestly.
In fact, I'd almost argue that, like, for instance, the system, the resource systems, I think we'll see resource systems almost instantly out on all of the small one-person ships. because
Yeah.
you don't really need to replace fuses with that. It's just more of a pipeline system. And
the other way you can
won't
look at
have
it
the
is like you can tell how big this game is going to be, but we've only got one system. It kind of is the same analogy, but for the ships that I was mentioning before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So we're down to the last 7 questions, and on YouTube, I'm going to make sure some of these are the same. Do you believe that the Liberator will come with pyro?
Nope.
No need for it.
Nope.
It would already have to be in production, and it's not. So,
and we were talking about the Legionnaire earlier. Anything with Legionnaire related, we talked about how it was taken off the roadmap, and now that's hacking's coming back on, and probably soon.
Next year.
Do you think a combat cargo ship? What do you think a combat cargo ship will look like?
It's got a catapult on it. It throws its boxes at you.
We already have one. It's called the Miss. The freelancer.
It's the Nomad. It drives backwards at you.
Yeah, I mean, like it'll look like combat. It'll be a big cargo bay and a lot of guns. We even have the Starfarer is a great example. It's a combat, or the Gemini. It's a combat cargo ship. That's what it is. So, any chances we'll see droids, robots, and Star Citizen? We've kind of already answered that. Sort of. We'll probably have some sort of basic droids, but no robots.
What was it? Is it the Kathak Spirit was?
That's
mine and your theory. Yeah.
My theory is that we will see robots, but they will be more like the.
You stole it from me. You stole it from me.
I'm sure I did. I don't. Based off.
We've been talking
name.
that long. We rub off on each other. That's how it works. But yeah.
In all sorts of ways. But if you're thinking about like Geth, yes, from like Mass Effect, like that kind of robot, we'll probably see them in the Krathok, but that'll be later down the line. All right. So this is the last YouTube question. We'll kind of answer this. Is it true that the A1 Spirit could show up at Invictus? I think it will show up at Invictus in holo format, or possibly on the floor but unrentable, because it's done. Like it's at the point where it's reaching gray. It's past gray box. It's LOD 0. So
I'll give you in game on the floor. Yeah, I'll give you that.
But I don't that's a possibility. I don't think it will 100%. But
which one?
The A1.
A1. Spirit A1. The bomber.
I think leaks said that the Spirit and the SRV are both Holoviewer.
They did say Holoviewer, but if they're Holoviewer, that means they're not in game. Then he's
not in the game. Yeah. So yeah.
Well, he's technically correct. The best type of correct. Damn it.
All right, so that's all the YouTube questions. Now we're going to go into the rest of the Twitch questions. Xi'an hover tank? Not anytime soon. I don't think that's what we're going to see with the leaks. Almost certainly not. What do you think, Tree? Do you think we're going to see a Xi'an hover tank?
I think that X is spot on when it comes to the sort of expansion pack type things. Is when we'll see more of that sort of stuff, especially as they start developing in that direction, game universe wise, like actual geography direction. It's there's not a players love them, but in reality there isn't a huge market for alien vehicles and ships in the UEE, and that's where we are. So I think that kind of along, and the vehicle team have said that they want to get the human vehicles fleshed out really well before they move on to more and more alien stuff.
It's a little bit like stealing from Peter to pay Paul. They're kind of stealing from the Zayan to pay the humans off now. They're much better off to keep it for down the line. Yeah.
Paul wants to know who this Peter guy is, and when do we steal
who's this
from
Peter
him?
guy that you're stealing from me? That's all I want to know.
Paul's the mob boss, and X and I are going to find Peter in a back alley and take his wallet and pay Paul back.
All right. So FaZe Kitten asks, I saw in the leaks that the Ranger is being showcased. Do you think this will be appearing in games soon? No, the Ranger is being showcased in holo format, which unfortunately means probably not.
I would hold off on that because we have seen the Ranger in the back of ISC shots, so that could be more likely to be one that is on the floor.
Okay.
So because the model would have to be pretty much done. Because if you think about it, you model it. It's not very complicated.
Mhm.
It's kind of like an X1, and basically then they just get it working in game. But the shots we saw it moving in the background, so in some form it's in game for developers at the very least.
I do know that it's likely waiting until the full rework of the ground traction system that they're doing, which they have been working on. They worked on it last month with a different gravity types, how ground vehicles and like wheeled vehicles work on different gravity moons, and try to work that out. So, all right, so we're down to 5 questions. Robert Voss asks, the single entrance for the Fury doesn't mean just a cockpit entrance. Look at a lot of MISC ships. They have side entrances. What do you think about that?
The thing they specifically mentioned the animations for the Avenger and the Mustang. They share a similar, so if you haven't noticed this, there is only a set number of animations in the game, and they cross-pollinate them over each other, so they do. Animations take up a lot of memory and stuff like that, right, to pull off. So that's why they do it. I'll give you a really simple example. In World of Warcraft, the main mount, is basically repetitively used over and over and over. So even in some of the mounts that flew, like the Proto Drake and the Dragon, that was actually exactly the same as the Raptor and the horses and shit like that. Like they had the same animation frames, but they would so in the background, the creature would have 6 legs, but you would only be seeing 4 of them move for the horse and shit like that. Yeah. So that's how they repetitively use stuff over and over and over. And I've given a bad example there because actually the horse and the Raptor is separate, but the Raptor, the Proto Drake, and that are the same. So they had 2-legged ones and 4-legged ones, but essentially.
And the chat is pointing out that the Avenger has 2 entrance and exits, which is true. But at the same time, we've only seen entrance and exit and the canopy.
Wow. They're not using the back, obviously. They're just using the front animation, not the back one.
Yeah. With the 0G animation is what we're talking about. Yeah. We're talking about the 0G animation. And that's the thing, is that not many ships have a back animation, and at least from the looks of things, it doesn't look like it has a cargo bay. Because it's a single seater. We know it's more than likely going to be a single seater. It could have a cargo bay, but a name like the Fury and being sold at Invictus tells me it's a combat ship or a military ship of some kind.
I think you're on a little bit of I can see where they're coming from now when I think about it. So yes, technically you could also have a back entrance and a front entrance, but you got to remember, you run that through statistically, I'm talking statistics here, it is far more likely to be what Paul just said and be a single seat fighter. Because especially with a name like the Fury.
Yeah, there's only 2 ships that I can think of that have that back turn. Now they are the Mustang and the Avenger, which are both do have the back turns because the Beta has that back turn. But every other ship has a go to EVA. There could still be some back kind of back entrance, but it's almost certainly because it's a single seater, or because it has an exit to EVA. That means a single seater. There's no other ship in game that has exit to EVA as a multi-seater ship. So
I am starting to think though now, if you were doing a bomber, you could have so imagine the Avenger, but it had the bombing tubes of the A1 in it in the back, and then you rip those out and it's got a small medical bed instead.
Yeah,
I can see that now. So I'm kind of starting to see where chat's going with that. That actually does make a little bit of sense. Not ruling anything out.
As long as it isn't another fighter.
Yes.
Yeah, so as I said, look, see, chat changed my mind. You can change my mind, but you've got to have really good information. But I'll take that on board. And that's what happens in imprinters. Everyone changes my mind. That's fine. Yeah. Go nuts.
But it
does happen.
But almost certainly it's a single seater ship, because no other ships have no multi-crew ships have exit to EVA in as an exit, that kind of thing. So
that's extremely rare. As you said, I think the only one is those 2 that you mentioned.
Yeah. So, all right. That's a good question there, Blazrad. Why would it have a dedicated fighter or military ship? The answer is because CIG thought it was cool. Because that's the same reason why the Crusader suddenly has a big ass gun, because CIG thought it was cool and it sold well and it ruined the Crusader's lore. It's one of the few things that I'm upset about with the writers, that they decided to go with the rule of cool rather than.
You think
keeping
it was the
things
writers?
consistent.
I think it was the marketing team. I think the marketing
Amen.
team went to a meeting and went, "Hey, we can make shit tons of money if we sell a Crusader military ship, and hey, everyone wants that massive capital ship killer. Let's do that one, and we'll just compound all our money and make a shit ton of money."
I think it was the ship team. I think the ship team thought this was going to cool as shit, and they liked the aesthetic of Crusader, and they knew that the players had liked the aesthetic of Crusader.
They started making it before they talked to the narrative team, and
the narrative team just like, cool, we're here to support you. We'll make it work. We'll figure it out, and that's what they did, and fucking ruined the entire narrative of the flow of Crusader. But
Well, the other way thinking and look at it is it really has spiced it up, because they were goody two shoes. So now we've got this bit of corruption angle coming in. So
that's true.
From a story perspective, it's kind of been interesting.
But from a lore perspective, it would make a lot more sense for a company like, I don't know, the company that makes all the guns, to build a ship that's basically a flying gun. But
it is funny though, because it was provided me with hours of endless complaining from you and Algrid about
yes,
like hours and hours and hours.
I don't complain about the lore much.
Complain.
The lore is pretty well written, and there's very few complaints I have. That's one of the big ones, is some of the inconsistencies when it comes to some of those things, because it's definitely more of the design team thought it was cool and just did it, and the writer team just figured out, hey, it's cool, and Chris likes it. Let's figure out how to make it work. So
the narrative team definitely gets a high A from me if I'm a teacher. Yeah.
Yes,
and they rarely slip up. Yeah,
and even when they're given shitballs for what they have to do, they find a way of making it work, like regeneration. Brilliant idea.
And you got lemons make lemonade.
Yep. Northern Trooper asks, Montreal ship team, are they new hires outside or internal transfers, and what ship would be their first ship? Far as I know, they're new hires.
Yep.
I was going to say Montreal is one of those areas where they make a lot of they've got a lot of game developers there, so they're probably poaching from other studios, etc.
Yes, YouTube chat is saying the lore is an alpha 2. I've said it before. I've said it before in my lore videos. The lore is an alpha 2. It does change. That doesn't mean that the lore is not important, though, because a lot of these are still the foundation of the universe that they're trying to build. So that's the important part. All right. And what ship would they build for ship? Knowing they'll probably have a ship that's variant would be my guess. I would believe that any new team that's being created from scratch will take up a ship that already exists with existing assets and make a variant of that as part of a training. Would be my guess.
I'm going to take a stab.
I also see them making.
He's an Argo guy. The Argo MCV.
Just got raided. Just got raided by Disco.
Disco Lando. He's here to tell us that he's here to see if we're wrong or right in our suggestions. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw since the Argo guy is over in Montreal, that we'd see an Argo ship of some kind. I could see an Argo variant. I could see like a variant of a new variant of the NPUV. Like building out new little attachments, like the search and rescue attachment, or the mining,
the repair
salvage,
one, or
the repair ones.
The repair or something. Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
Hey,
especially because it's small and quick turnaround.
Oh, he was playing Super Mario Odyssey. Awesome. Well, welcome.
I was actually going to suggest that we rate him, but he rated us first.
He should also go to bed, because it's like ungodly early in the morning
for
him. Go to bed.
My mom. Paul's the space mom and Disco's the space dad.
Yes. All right. Next question comes from Zell Official, who asks, so the flak damage mentioned for ships, does this mean new vehicles with the airburst ammo for a new vehicle could be similar tech-wise? Okay, that means the new vehicle with the airburst ammo for the new vehicle.
So he's talking about the Storm.
Yes.
He's talking about the Storm. But that could be a thing. But also, what's to stop you from putting flak on, say, a Centurion?
Nothing.
Yep.
That's what sport is designed for. Or on all of the Hammerhead. Fucking
The only thing I can think of is, and I thought about this earlier, but we had already kind of moved on. If you look at the flat cannons on big ships, or flat cannons on ground guns, they're pretty big. And I would think that those flat cannons fire a larger round than what the Centurion fires. If you could swap out the guns on the Centurion instead of repeaters, they're cannons. But even then, I think they might be bigger.
So think bigger and go further, because what's to stop them? It's ammo types. What's to stop them from putting it in an actual bomb? Why can't you have an A2 literally drop a plasma bomb that leaves this giant cloud that just sits on an area and denies it for
area of denial.
However long exactly. What if you can't go there for an hour because they've dropped this big, massive, toxic plasma cloud that just kills anything that walks into it?
But it'll erode your weapons and your equipment, so it's like
kind
of a quick.
That's exactly right. Look at the player choices there and the gameplay that provides. That is exactly, Paul. That's perfect.
Well, and it makes sense. That's what cluster bombs and cluster munitions are designed to do. They're area of denial weapons. They're designed to just blow up holes in roadways and like landing strips and just create tons of little bomblets. So that
there's only special gear that can go in there that you've got, but the other team doesn't. So you deliberately drop it so you can go in and they can't. Things like that. Yeah,
that's interesting gameplay. So for sure.
Yep. Very.
All right. Last two questions. Walter Epic asks, what do you think the end price of the Galaxy will be? I would expect it to go up on release, but it's a Caterpillar competitor and already $50 more than the Cat. Is the base $50 more than the Cat?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
Exactly $50 more. I don't remember.
So I tend to put prices based on other ships in that area. So if you look at the Reclaimer that went from $350 to $400, I would have to say it'd have to be $50 to $60. So basically, you're looking at it at that would make it $430 by my math, or $440.
And that's for the base.
That is for the $380 base variant. Yes, correct.
Okay.
And I'd assume that the modules are not really going to go up that much in price, because again, you can work out the individual prices the modules were listed, and again, you take their price point and add other ships that roughly went up in that area around them, and you'll come to a similar conclusion. So I'd have to go work that on an individual basis. But like, was it 580 all up, or something, 530 or something like that? I can't remember the price. I'd have to go have a look at it. But I just remember ships on the individual prices. So again, I'd be expecting 430 to 440 in that range.
Okay.
Anyway, I think that answers it best I can.
So you're expecting it to be, well, I also expect there to be a lot more modules for RSI. And on top of that, it's RSI versus Drake. There's always going to be a price difference. Drake is always going to be cheaper. That's just how Drake rolls. So yeah, I'd expect it to be more expensive than the Drake, than the Caterpillar. But I also expect the Caterpillar to not be as rugged or as dependable, but cheaper. Easier to find the parts.
Break more frequently, but cheaper to fix, where RSI is a bit like Origin, so it's going to cost a lot more to fix, but far less likely to break. Yeah.
It'll be a little bit more middle of the road. Whereas whereas Drake is super cheap, but because it's super cheap, you can replace it pretty easily, but you're constantly going to have to replace it.
Do you really find RSI middle of the road? I find them really high end because they've got things like the Phoenix and stuff like that. I literally think it goes RSI, and then the next step is Origin. I don't think there's any gap between.
I think RSI I think it's going to end up somewhere in the middle, where some of the higher end stuff will have higher prices, because I do think they'll be bespoke. Parts.
So you think they're a bit more flexible? Right,
yes.
I'm with you. Yep,
because they're also the oldest company in the verse. So they're
been around. Yep.
Do you think the
in terms of construction techniques, I was thinking RSI and then Crusader and then Origin.
Yeah.
As far as expensive.
Crusader is actually really low end, just so you're aware. They're essentially so basically you've got MISC, which is the high end industrial. You've then got Argo that's in the middle, and you've actually got Crusader at the low end. They again, Paul can tell you about their lore. They were making money for charity and stuff like that. They were goodwill essentially for a long time. So they were very low quality for a long. Well, not low quality, but budget friendly.
They're more robust Drake. They're Drake, but more robust is what they are.
Yeah. Industrial Drake's another way to look at them too, but that's Drake's industrial too now. But
it's more industrial. Like if Drake is frontier industrial, Crusader is like mid rim industrial. Like middle of the rim.
There is a spectrum, like what Paul was saying about RSI as well, but it's just far narrower with Crusader.
Like the Galaxy, or not the Galaxy, the Starliner is obviously going to be higher end than the Hurricane or the Hercules, because the Hercules is a military ship, so it's got to be. And they even mentioned it in lore, like they love it because it's so easy to work on. So I think it still could be expensive, but it's super easy to work on. So it's like simple compared to like say an Origin. You don't have to disassemble.
Very clinical and white. Like all the corridors are a bit samey. Like think about all the ones that they've got already. And a hallmark at the moment is no windows, which I hate.
Windows are structural weaknesses. Execute Windows are structural weaknesses. So you don't.
So is my eyes apparently.
The Genesis is supposed to have military variants. That was an early lore for it. And there may be military transports, but it's kind of like a 707 being used for military purposes. It does happen. It can happen, but you wouldn't fly a 707 into Mogadishu because you're just going to get shot to pieces.
That ship's going to get a heavy reconcept too before release as well. I reckon.
All right. Last question comes from Harkin2192, who asks, I'm pretty sure the Arrow and Valkyrie are the latest ships released that we have seen flown by AI, which was in 2018. Why do you think we don't see AI flying any of the ships that have been released in the past 4 years? When do you think we'll start seeing more ships under NPC control? There's a reason for this, and it was released in the latest Squadron 42 monthly report, but because nobody reads the monthly reports, and especially no one covers the Squadron 42 monthly reports, really, current company excluded, because I know Tree and Nova Forge do that. But you may not know that they're completely reworking AI, NPC flight combat AI from the ground up. It's getting the same touch-ups and overhaul and like facelift that we start seeing with the AI that they showed off at CitizenCon, which is also Squadron 42. Which was FPS based. They said, I think the quote it was, they're going to be more up close and faster is what the whole thing is.
It's not just a copy paste job either, because like the AI essentially has to know the different control weaknesses of ships like that. Like how, if I turn here, what is this thruster going to do on this part of the ship and stuff like that? It depends how they're programming it from the beginning. Like they could actually program it so it's a copy paste job overall, but generally in most games they're a lot more bespoke, so they tend to do them on a ship by ship basis. So we'll see how they end up coding it. But again, everything that they've got to overlay to another ship is there's someone there that has to overlay it to another ship, so they use a sample size and roll it out. And that's why you've seen, you said it yourself, an Arrow and a Valkyrie, it gives them different ship sizes to work with. So that they can, like put it this way, a Valkyrie might act similar to a Caterpillar or a Starfarer, but an Arrow will probably is small enough that it'll probably be able to act similar to a Gladius or a Cutlass. So it's more easier to just work on one rather than work on all of them.
I'm going to let Tree take this last question. We actually had a last one, which is a good question to have, and I'll answer a little bit too, but I know Tree's done it as well, which is, how reliable is the lore with everything being subject to change?
I don't have the photographic memory that Paul does, because Paul teaches it like all the time. Whereas
how reliable is
everything.
Paul? That's my question. Yeah.
Well, we're already mugging a guy named Peter to pay him, so that's how dependent Paul is. But it's Paul has gone on this tangent many times because there's a lot of content creators that will, from other avenues, that will shit on Star Citizen's lore, and they're like, oh, it's so shallow. And it's like, it's because you haven't read it all, because there's so much lore in so many different places. It's absolutely insane. Like you can go, I have a link in one of my bookmarks that will take you to a thing that somebody made that just catalogs all the comm links that are available on Star Citizen's website. And there are literally thousands of pages of lore just in the comlinks, not including, some of the things that aren't in the comlinks that are in jump points, not including the alien writers guides. It's just absolutely nuts. And, and so in the vast, the vastness of the lore, very little has actually changed of significant substance. So when things do occasionally change that are a big deal, then it gets made into a big deal because it's like, oh, okay, this is out of the ordinary that this changed this dramatically. But the lore, I think Dell said it in chat. The lore is generally kept, I don't want to say vague, because there is a lot of good detail that's available, but it isn't.
I'd say.
Yeah, it's an overview. You're getting more of in most things it's a 10 to 30,000 foot view versus a 50 foot to 50 100 foot view, and so you have to keep it in that context. They don't get into the nitty gritty for a lot of things that some things they do, but those are things that aren't going to change. So yeah, it is very, very general, but I think it's a giant misnomer to say that the lore is unreliable because it's subject to change. Well, yeah, it's subject to change, but it doesn't generally change all that much.
Yeah.
Like the Pyro is really the biggest example, and it's really not all changing all that much. It's still a very, the theme of the system hasn't really changed. They're just, some of the planets have breathable atmospheres and people living on the ground.
Or even the dangers. Like the dangers of Pyro still exist.
Yeah.
You're still going to be subject to solar flares. You're still going to have other problems. It's just they changed it so some planets are habitable. And they changed the sun from red to yellow. That's it. But the purpose, the scope, everything remained the same. I'm actually doing a video on one of the changes that they probably are going to make, and this is a good example of this, which is the first settlers of Stanton. We had a direct reference to the first settlers of Stanton in a jump point, which was one of the very early jump points that talked about the Stanton lore. That was entirely removed in later updates, but up to 2018, they still were mentioning this event happening. And while that likely has changed, it's changed because Stanton itself changed dates. So Stanton went from being discovered in the early 30th century to being discovered in the middle of the 29th century. So about 50-year difference, which meant that the placement of a bangle in the Stanton system didn't make any sense because the bangle wasn't invented until later. But they still, so even though it's removed, we still know that there were settlers that were there at one point, and they were removed or they left at some point for some reason. And CIG was left, forced out of their homes at gunpoint is another way of putting it. But CIG definitely still wants to tell that story. But they're going from, because they had to change some of those details, they're going from a rough outline of that concept to, now that Stanton's in the game and you can play it, they're going to tell that story in more detail, probably in the next couple of years, with them adding the new outposts and stuff. So that's a good example. So generally speaking, the lore, the general stuff, the UEE exists, the Xi'an, the Vanduul, the various political parties, the big events that happened, all of that is still going to be the same. But anything that's more specific about a specific system, that might change a little bit, but they really don't like doing retcons. They prefer to keep things as general as possible until they get to that specific point, and then they dig down on that one point. So yeah.
I do also want to say real quickly with the lore is they probably are actually writing it but not releasing it.
Yeah.
So they write lore in the background, but then until that ship is like released or locked in, they don't tell us about that.
Oh, 100%. They have an idea of what they want to do, but they won't tell us until they know.
The best example of what Paul is talking about too is when they do a Galactopedia update, and they usually add 2 new systems to the Galactopedia with each update. Or you can go look back and look at previous ones. When go read the Galactopedia updates and look at what they write for each planet and the system in general and the things within it, and then go read the original comlink for that system. They're really easy to find, and you can the the comm links are a lot longer generally than all of the information from each planet and the system in general. But the theme is over. There's very little change. There are very minor changes, and they've just made it a little bit more general. But the themes are all still there, and that's why I do the lore equals gameplay segments on the Galactopedia articles, because it's the most up-to-date information. But I also like to see, because they do make updates when they're adding in the Galactopedia articles about things within, and you can see that those updates are being made in line with what's being developed for the game, with underground facilities, asteroid facilities, cave networks, all that sort of stuff. It's locations for salvage. They talk about specific Lagrange points where there's a lot of salvage around a gas giant or whatever. Not because it's specific information, that they'll have to retcon later, but because they're writing these things in as the gameplay is being developed, and they can add more instances of them later. But in general, this is a good place for salvage. In general, there will be underground facilities here, that are abandoned or for research.
Yeah, and that doesn't mean that like the lore team will never sit there and say, at this XY coordinate you will find an underground bunker that was abandoned. But they might write about an underground bunker that is abandoned in a system that has those underground bunkers, and then when that system comes in game, they may actually go out and make that, or say, hey, this is a cool thing. But because they didn't say exactly where it was, then you could find it and find out that all that information itself. So yeah, that's the last question. We had a very long one. I have no idea how long this has been at this point. We're like an hour and a half over, but it was a good talk, and I think we had a lot of discussions about ships and the game. As always, make sure you're checking out Tree0311 on Twitch and YouTube, youtube.com/0311 and twitch.com/0311. And of course, check out myself and Execute on the next episode, which will come out of the Inforunners. At youtube.com/theinforunners, and check them out live at twitch.tv/theinforunners and youtube.com/theinforunners. And check us out live every, or not every Saturday, but on Saturdays at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. And love to see you live, answering all these questions. And if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you hit that like button, make sure you subscribe for more content, and hit that bell icon to be notified when it's released. If you're on Twitch, make sure you hit that follow button so you can actually follow us here when we go live. And like I say every time,
your feed pics to Paul. Don't forget he likes feed pics. Yeah.
Like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black.